Mm-hmm. Athena already? Okay. Okay.
Esif joined the bobbers.
Hi, Icy. Watch. They followed. But you don't gotta worry about it because it's my stream. You don't gotta worry about it. And you don't gotta worry about people joining. Ashley. Alright, who's ready to learn some lore? I'm gonna share my screen to you so that you don't gotta worry about the lag. Yeah, you did. You can be curious all you want. I'm not looking at it. We're watching lore. Quit looking at my shit! Once I'm ready. Once I'm ready, dickwad. Whatever. Damn, it sucks losing your Discord account. Can't use my PNG tuber because it's on my other Discord accounts. So quiet, not gonna lie. Honor. Yeah, thank you for the follow. There we go. We'll be ready in a minute. Do you remember? You didn't change the icon though, right? Because I do remember just seeing a black icon, but I don't remember the name. Also, you might want to change Discord link to current one so you don't, if you don't get your account back. You're so right, you're so right, you're so right. But then again, they can just join that one as well, because there is an announcement saying, hey, this happened, join this one. So, we're still good. I don't gotta change it now, so. Yeah. Alright. We're not gonna play anything. We're gonna learn FNAF lore. With amazing the game theorists. But let's make sure you guys can hear everything. Try to make you guys hear Kerbo. Alright. There we go. We should be good. So we're gonna be looking at all the solved FNAF mysteries from game theorists. I should probably put him on the screen so that I don't get copyright strike. Because I will be posting this as a VOD. Okay, that works.
Have fun, I need to leave, so bye. Hi.
Alright. Alright, let's get into it. Let me know if it is quiet. We got this shot.
It's time.
I wonder how many people are gonna get nostalgia from this.
Hello, Internet.
Vibes.
Welcome to Game Theory, where good things, or at least FNAF things, come to those who wait. And man, when it comes to this game series, no one was waiting for anything. I mean, the second game came out 3 months after the first,
really
the
weren't.
trailer for the third was 2 months later, and like 4 minutes after that, the game was available to download. So forgive me if I was caught with my pants down on that one. I just wasn't prepared for it. But even more impressive than that abbreviated timeline was your ability to rip that final game apart. Hours after the release of the game, people were discussing good versus bad endings, 8-bit Atari cake, glitching through walls, and punching a flipping code into cement bricks arranged like a telephone dial pad. In regards to that last one, I have 2 things to say. First off, well done to you guys for figuring it out so quickly, and secondly, Scott, seriously. Seriously, Scott? Oh look, here's a wall. Let me just dial in my phone number. Beep boop boop beep boop boop. What? When did we jump from a point-and-click horror game to magical fantasy? This thing is like platform 9 3/4. I expect Harry effing Potter to apparate into Pirate's Cove or something. Jeez, here I was thinking that you'd plug your numbers into, the one other place that you see numbers in this game, the bonus jump scare menu, or something, anything, but nope, dialing it into a wall makes so much more sense. Okay, sorry, just needed to get that one off my chest. Moving on. Now, with 15 days at Freddy's under our belts and a few overtime hours clocked in for good measure, we have ourselves a completed video game trilogy, with the third game giving us more jump scares, more phone guy, and more fan. But this game also contains the final clues we need to get some closure on this game's deviously vague story. Scotty C certainly didn't make things any easier for us, but at this point I think we finally have enough puzzle pieces scattered across the 3 games to assemble a fairly accurate picture of this franchise's lore. Since you guys had a, let's just say, above average interest in this theory, I wanted to create something that answered as many questions as possible about this franchise. But beyond just the details, the question we all want an answer to is, what exactly happened in the story throughout this series? It's a pretty fundamental question to not have an answer to, and yet, despite thousands of videos, forum entries, and Tumblr posts, whoa, hey, put that away, you behave yourself. This game is already scary enough without you sticking your hook somewhere it doesn't belong, okay? Despite all those things, we still don't have a clear picture on the details. Yes, there's a child killer on the loose, the infamous purple guy, who's been using Fazbear pizzerias as his hunting ground of choice for years, but going into the 3rd game, we still weren't sure about who this guy was or even how many victims he'd officially taken. Then there are the animatronics. Sure, we generally understand that the killer's dead bodies have been stuffed into some of the suits, and that with the help of the puppet, the kids were able to find new life in those robotic bodies. But then, what about Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy, who randomly appeared in FNAF 2 only to become prominent figures throughout Part 3? How do they fit in? What about the ghostly Golden Freddy, someone we've been talking about since the 1st game, and yet we still don't really know anything about him? Well, now that we finally have all the facts, I think it's time we revisit my timeline I presented in the last episode to see what I got right, what I got wrong. Yes, you heard that. Wrong. No shame. I'm a big boy. Mommy,
Jesus
wow, I'm a
fucking
big kid now. And
Christ.
finally fill in the missing details to create what I believe to be my
Game
definitive
theory.
Five Nights theory. And boy, howdy, it is a doozy. So strap in, theorists. You wanted it. You're about to get it. Overall, the timeline of the franchise I presented in the last video still holds strong. Decades before the name became a horror legend meriting its own theme park style attraction, Freddy Fazbear got his start at Fredbear Family Diner. It's here where our story begins as Purple Guy takes his first victim, something we see in the Take Cake minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. What tells us that this is Fredbear's and first in the timeline? Well, as I said last time, in addition to it being a small space, the only character we see is Freddy, whereas all other minigames feature multiple animatronics. He's also holding a cupcake. Since that would later become Chica's signature item, the event depicted in this game must have come before she was created.
Cheeky
Additionally,
smiley
notice
face.
that the purple guy's murder takes place outside the building. This is the only time we see him murder someone outside the walls of a Fazbear building, which implies that this is likely his first victim. Serial killers often have what's known as a signature, a way of killing that's unique to him and him alone. For Purple Guy, his signature is dressing in an animatronic costume, then luring children to the back of the pizzeria and killing them there. But this murder occurs before he developed this particular style, implying that it's the first. From there, we know that the puppet jump scare that always follows this minigame, combined with the tier design on both the dead child and the puppet's mask, implies that the soul of the first child now exists in the puppet. The event caused the original owners to sell the Fredbear name, who then rebranded and avoided the negative PR, becoming what we know
That's
today
fun to
as
know.
Fazbear Entertainment. They then opened a new chain of restaurants, which we never saw in the games until the release of Five Nights 3. This is not Fredbear Diner like many interpret, but rather the first location of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, predating the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. How do we know? Well, by paying close attention to the old recordings of Phone Guy dug up in FNAF 3, he introduces us to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Diner, before explaining the functionality of the special spring-lock suits.
Welcome to your new career as a performer/entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Right now we have two specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit.
He also lets us know that the animatronics are still allowed to walk around freely during the day, meaning that this is happening before the bite of 87, in which an animatronic bites someone during business hours, removing their frontal lobe and resulting in the animatronics being restricted to moving around only at night.
For ease of operation, the animatronics are set to turn and walk towards sound to eat
As Phone Guy informs us, and as we see in the Stage 01 minigame, there are two specialty suits, a Golden Bonnie suit and the origins of the infamous Golden Freddy. But the lifespan of these Springlock suits is actually short-lived as we learn about their one fatal flaw.
After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees. The classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location.
Oh, animations are amazing.
Two employees are killed by the failure of a Bonnie suit and a Freddy suit. Where else in the game do we see Bonnie and Freddy sharing a unique feature that no one else in the game possesses? Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. Could this be the origin of the paranormal Shadow suits? Yes, actually. Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie are tied to the ghosts of the employees who died in the spring suits. Get this, the employees' bodies were taken out of the suits, which is why their appearance is more paranormal and why they can't possess them as well as the children can. Plus, having this as their origin would explain the in-game behavior of both suits. In FNAF 3, we see that Purple Guy hides in a secret safe room that has been built into every pizzeria. A room that's hidden to customers and invisible to the animatronics programming. During the minigames that occur between nights, we see Shadow Freddy lead the other animatronics to this secret room, only to cause them to glitch out and then get torn apart by Purple Guy. This supernatural origin story is how Shadow Freddy is able to enter the safe room when other animatronics can't. How he's able to lead you to that room in the first place when other animatronics wouldn't be able to see it based on their programming, and even why he leads you there, knowing that Purple Guy attacking you will eventually free your soul. That's also why there's no Purple Freddy suit when you do finally enter that room. It's not an alternate Purple Guy costume like many believe, it's an apparition. Suck on that, Harry Potter, I knew someone would apparate eventually. It also explains why Shadow Bonnie's minigame in FNAF 3 always starts on Stage 01, the spring suits, and why it's the one animatronic we control that has the ghostly ability to glitch, fly, and teleport. As we concluded last episode, this is also the point in the timeline of the first missing children's incident, the one we learn about via newspaper clippings in Five Nights 1. So, based on the newspaper clipping evidence we have, we know that the mauve murderer dressed in one of the suits lured children to a back room and killed them. He's starting to develop his signature, but one nagging detail FNAF theorists have been wondering is what suit does he use for his disguise? The answer? Golden Bonnie. Why? Well, remember the phone guy saying the faulty suits were being retired to an appropriate location. There's a high likelihood they're being stored in one of the safe rooms in the restaurants. Plus, we hear in FNAF 2 that the Purple Guy has a habit of using a yellow suit.
We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it.
But why not Golden Freddy? Phone Guy tells us so at the beginning of Night 5 in FNAF 3.
Management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved.
My, what an oddly specific detail to include, Scott Cawthon. And remember, these tapes that play in FNAF 3 date all the way back to the first pizzeria location, which is why this detail is so important. It reflects Purple Guy starting to develop his signature killing pattern. From there, we know the rest of the story. Purple Guy kills the kids, stuffs the bodies into the suits to hide them, but as we read the paper, is caught on camera and arrested. Meanwhile, the puppet gives life to the children, and the angry spirits possess the robots. Or is that really how it goes? Let's go back to the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame. The children are lying there dead, and the puppet first tries to give them presents. Weird, right? Weird until you consider that his place is at the prize corner. Giving presents is the only thing he knows that can make children happy. It's a reflex. Remember, this is still a child spirit in this puppet, but when that doesn't work, the puppet goes around one more time and does the only other thing it can think of: put the bodies into the suits. You heard that right. In trying to save the children, he's the one hiding them in the animatronic suits, not the killer like we've been assuming. But then what about the fifth child, as there's only 4 here? Well, as we pointed out last time, the fifth child is there too, appearing at the very end of the minigame and taking the role of Golden Freddy. But remember, Golden Freddy is a decommissioned spring-lock suit at this point, deemed too unsafe to be functional. The reason he's slumped over and can't move like the rest is that his endoskeleton has been taken out. He's in suit mode, not free roaming mode. He physically doesn't have the mechanisms in place to stand up and move. Possessed or no, a dead child's spirit just can't give a boneless suit the ability to stand. This also explains the lone naked endoskeleton that appears occasionally in both Five Nights 2 and Five Nights 1. An endoskeleton that once belonged to Golden
I did
Freddy.
not know that.
Whew. I know I made you wait for this one, so I knew I had to make it count. Heck, if there ain't a lot to cover. Still with me? Good, because we're ready for our next location. You see, since the puppet hid the bodies, no one knows they're in the suits until they start oozing and smelling, which, as we see in the papers, eventually gets the place shut down for health violations. The company tries to recover from, quote, the tragedy that took place there many years ago, but can't, and eventually is forced to shut its doors for good. This leads to the trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Finally, we're actually going to talk about a game in the series. Seriously, can you believe we've been going this whole time on locations that aren't even settings for the 3 main games? That is why this lore is so challenging, but also so interesting. Anyway, forgotten, dismantled, deactivated. These are the words you see at the beginning of the trailer. Back when the debate about whether this game was a sequel or a prequel to the first game, these words made it seem like a follow-up, that everything had been shut down since the first game, but it wasn't. These words are a reference to the business being closed down after that first missing children's incident. That's why posters everywhere in Five Nights 2 are all about the brand new Fazbear Pizza. It's the grand reopening after years of being out of business. That's also why the new toy animatronics have built-in facial recognition software to a criminal database. They need to be careful to prevent another incident, but as we know, it doesn't work. As we see in the Save Them minigame, 5 more children get killed in this new location. We know it's the new location because the minigame map's layout perfectly matches this new Fazbear business. We also know it couldn't have happened earlier in the timeline, as both the old animatronics and new toy robots are presented in the game. But this time, the puppet's solution isn't saving the kids, it's stopping the killer. He enlists the help of Freddy to try and SAVETHEM, leading the bear to the killer's location. Except Purple Guy came prepared, equipped with not a phone, but rather something to help him tamper with the animatronics. He knows that something fishy is going on with these robots, because he's been watching, studying. The puppet wants Freddy to save them, to which the killer's answer is only this: you can't. So how did the purple guy manage it when he had been caught years before? What about the bite of 87? How do FNAF 1 and 3 fit in? And most importantly of all, who is the purple guy? All that next week. Don't worry, I'll come back. I always do. In the meantime, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Make sure you don't miss part 2 by clicking subscribe.
I get the feeling that there is like a full-on deep dive when everything was all open to public.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure there was. I just can't remember.
Me neither. I can't remember the video. Here, hold on.
Just do like, there's literally when you click the search tab, there was FNAF Lore deep dive. Just go down
there
to see
really?
it. It's like near the bottom. FNAF Lore deep dive.
Oh, I skipped past it.
Yeah. Yeah, you wanna do it? 8 hours.
8
Short
hours.
introduction.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. There we go.
But this does exclude Secrets of the Mimic.
It's fine.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so weird not seeing your VTuber, but seeing my PNG tuber.
Mm-hmm.
Hello and welcome to The Absurds. My name
Hello.
is Gibby, and I have written scripts
I like
well
that name.
over 100 pages before, but I have
Yeah.
never tackled a subject like this. This is the most complicated narrative I have ever unwound on my channel. If you're
The heads on the stand are really cool. And they got Pokeballs too.
Yeah, those are Legos.
Yeah.
I know those things are fucking expensive. Those are like $100.
I'm not even worried about the lure. I like the background. The
For a long
background
time,
is sick.
people even know that my bread and butter are
This background.
unbelievable Stranger
He
Than
even has
Fiction
fucking
true stories
minifigs
and
on
fictional
display.
worlds that are so
Mhm.
detailed they feel like reality. And the most interesting
Holy
thing I
shit.
discuss are the intersections between these fantastical fictions and the unbelievable stories and joy behind their creations. In this video, I'm going to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's. The internet will have you believe this is the most
Let's go to the history. This is
Five
8
Nights at
hours. I'm gonna
Freddy's
skip as
started
much as
life
possible.
an indie game developed by a single man,
Aw, man,
Scott
hold on.
Hamilton. It has since spawned nearly a dozen sequels, multiple series of novels, and an upcoming movie being produced by horror juggernaut
The main
Blumhouse.
3
I
books
say
are
upcoming,
really
knowing
good.
full well that within a few short weeks, this video will be outdated by the movie.
Mhm.
But hey, that's how YouTube works. I can't sit on this video forever. Most people know the story by heart, but it's important to cover the origins of the franchise, because I think that understanding the author is one of the best ways to start looking into the meaning of a piece of art.
Hold on. I gotta go let the freaking dog that we never wanted out.
Yeah.
Right.
Damn. That's so mean.
Can you let Reese out? Yeah. Thank you. Alright, I'm back.
Scott
Let's
Collins
hit it.
That was
released several
harsh.
failed indie games before Five Nights at Freddy's.
What
Most
you
of
said
them
was
using
so harsh,
simple yet
babe.
stylized
It's a
graphics that
dog.
look straight out of the early
Dog we
90s.
never wanted.
Something
It's
that's brought up a lot
crazy.
is that
Yeah,
Scott
because
is a
it's my
devout
brother's
Christian,
dog,
and so
but
his
now
games
it's
feature
basically
themes that you would
ours.
find in works created by religious people. I don't think that's actually an important part of the story of Five Nights at Freddy's, which I'm going to call FNAF from now on.
Yo, what
because that's
the
just
fuck
way
is
too long of a
this?
title to
I
keep
don't
saying.
know.
I think the internet just likes highlighting Scott as being religious because it makes the turn from bright and chipper games he used to make to the dark and legitimately disturbing FNAF all the more drastic.
I was always
dramatic.
hoping Bonnie
Of
would
course, I
do
don't want
that
to
in the original
undercut
game.
the role that God plays in works created by faithful people. I think a lot of religious people would say that God is present in all of their creative endeavors. But it's so weird to me that people label Scott as a Christian when so many creators, especially here in America, are Christian. I've never seen a video essay about Skyrim opened by discussing how Todd Howard is Catholic. I just think it's wild that when people are discussing FNAF theories, someone will say, well, you know, Scott is Christian, as if the vast, vast majority of art people consume isn't made by a religious person. Anyway, the game he made right before FNAF was actually called Chipper & Sons Lumber Company. See, that's why I described his older games as Chipper. Is a pun. But before Scott made Chipper & Sons, he created a much darker game in 2012 called The Desolate Hope. This game is intentionally dark, frightening even. Scott didn't go from VeggieTales to child murder. He was a normal adult creator who made some games for kids and some games for older people. Again, I think the focus on Scott's past is meant to point to FNAF being this breaking point, where he was so desperate with one final chance for success that he let the inner darkness of his soul come out to make this horrific experience. But I honestly don't think it was that dramatic. A major criticism of Chipper & Sons was that the characters looked like scary animatronics, and so Scott decided his next game would have intentionally scary animatronics. I don't think Scott was waving his fist in the air saying, if this is what you want, I'll show you scary. I think he did what he would continue to do while making the FNAF series. He made his next game using the feedback he got from his previous game. And so Five Nights at Freddy's was born, a horror game about demonic-looking animatronics right out of your...
Jesus Christ. I don't think we needed that history.
Nah, not really, no.
Let me set the stage for you. Pun definitely intended. In Five Nights at Freddy's, you play as a security guard at a fictionalized
I'm
Burger
I'm glad you
King
cleared that up for
cheese.
me. I wasn't
They
too
got
sure.
arcade machines, they got pizza, they got animatronics that sing and entertain the kids, and they got animatronics that sing and terrify the kids. It's just how it is. You have to stay there from midnight until 6 a.m. and just watch the building. But soon you learn that you're not there to keep vandals and burglars out. You're there because of the animatronics. Every night you hear a recorded message from the previous nighttime guard over the phone, which led the community to dub this character Phone Guy. Phone Guy explains that the animatronics have to walk around occasionally to prevent their servos from locking up, and that they can't do it during the day because in the past letting them walk around led to the bite of 87, in which someone lost the frontal lobe of their brain. The animatronics have some level of artificial intelligence, and Phone Guy says that if they see you, they'll probably think you're an endoskeleton in need of a mascot suit, so they'll drag you to the back room and stuff you into a spare suit, which would kill you. The game, then, is to survive until 6 a.m. by warding off characters and protecting yourself from
I
them
didn't
using
know.
strategy and techniques that
It's
you learn
crazy.
through trial and error, with some hints from Phone Guy. You survive
Whoa,
5
Phone
nights,
Guy giving
get a paycheck,
hints?
and the game
Whoa!
That's the basis of Five Nights at Freddy's. It's just pattern recognition with a creepy
would be a
atmosphere
long
and
stream.
some subtle lore and lots of jump scares, which make
Get
it
your
the perfect
Roblox or
game to
Minecraft
play
out,
for a
folks. We're
YouTube
gonna be here a
channel.
while.
It's one thing to play the game and
I might get
slowly
my
learn
Minecraft
how to
or
beat
Roblox
each night
out.
and best each
Dude,
animatronic.
I'm thinking of getting on
But when you
Roblox
do,
right
you
now,
get
actually.
Fucking
frustrated
Subway
every time you
Surf
die
this
'cause you
shit.
just don't know why. The game is not great at communicating
Jingle,
exactly
jingle.
what you're supposed to be doing,
Jingle,
which
jingle.
led to a lot of
Subway Surfers
myths and
on half
legends
the
at the time
screen.
about easy ways to best certain characters like Foxy. But if you're watching somebody play, not only do you get to watch them figure it out on their own, but when they die,
Nah,
it's
but
not
I am open
frustrating,
Roblox.
it's hilarious.
I
They
ain't doing
scream
that.
and make funny sounds.
I know the lore.
God, this night is lasting forever!
All the boring parts will be edited out, so you just get a smooth, engaging narrative of your favorite screaming YouTube boy fighting his way through each night.
My favorite movie star boy. Hell yeah.
Mr. Examine? No ducky there. Where's my...
FNAF is a great game mechanically, but in its essence, it's actually better as a video. The fun puzzle parts are still fun because you, the viewer, still get to figure them out, and the frustrating failures are fun because you're not the one failing. Again, I think it's accurate to say the game is accidentally
Thanks,
great.
Mom. I'm
for
glad I'm
Let's
not a
Players,
failure.
and that's one reason
What?
people love it. But the other
Talking
reason
about
is the
failures.
lore I mentioned earlier.
Oh,
The bite of 87, the lived-in feeling of the building and the history it implies.
type.
Nowadays, we
Yes,
might say
love
it has the
typing.
essence of a liminal space.
Uh-huh.
We see a party room, empty, with hats set up for a party that you aren't going to attend. You're seeing something outside of its normal context, and for some reason, we find that creepy. There's also newspapers on the wall you can read that tell a very vague but also easy to decipher story. The original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was shut down because 5 children went missing inside, but their bodies were never found. Kids vanish at local pizzeria. Bodies not found. 2 local children were reportedly lured into a back room during the late hours of operation at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza on the night of June 26th. While video surveillance identified the man responsible and led to his capture the following morning, the children themselves were never found and are presumed dead. Police think that the suspect dressed as a company mascot to earn the children's trust. 5 children now reported missing. Suspect convicted. 5 children are now linked to the incident at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where a man dressed as a cartoon mascot lured them into a back room. While the suspect has been charged, the bodies themselves were never found. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has been fighting an uphill battle ever since to convince families to return to the pizzeria. It's a tragedy. Local pizzeria threatened with shutdown over sanitation. Local pizzeria, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, has been threatened again with shutdown by the health department over reports of foul odor coming from the much-loved animal mascots. Police were contacted when parents reportedly noticed what appeared to be blood and mucus around the eyes and mouths of the mascots. One parent likened them to reanimated carcasses. Local pizzerias said to close by year's end. After a long struggle to stay in business after the tragedy that took place there many years ago, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza has announced that it will close by year's end. Despite a year-long search for a buyer, companies seem unwilling to be associated with the company. These characters will live on in the hearts of kids. These characters will live on. CEO. So yeah, the killers stuffed their bodies in the suits, and now they're haunted. Pretty straightforward. I wouldn't say that this is so much hidden lore as it is subtext. You're supposed to understand what the newspapers are implying. Also, fun fact, recording this is the first time I noticed that last quote, "These characters will live on in the hearts of kids, these characters will live on." It's a joke, because the characters are going to live on because they're possessed and they're ghosts. I get it now. The events described in these newspapers are referred to by fans as the Missing Children's Incident, or the MCI. This will go on to be the basis and the catalyst for everything that happens in the story. And because of that, all of the details surrounding it are extremely important. The newspapers explain that cameras picked up someone in a mascot suit luring children into a back room. This happened in June, and the next day after the camera footage was observed, the guy was arrested. But even then, the bodies were never found. We know and we can assume that they were stuffed into the suits. That's why it's the Missing Children Incident and not the Dead Children Incident. There's some speculation about when this occurred, but basically everyone agrees it was 1985. The newspaper specifies the month of June, and the 1985 number comes from the books that describe the incident, as well as the fact that based on later games in the series, we know it takes place between 1983 and 1987. So 1985 is the date of the Missing Children Incident, which from now on I will refer to as the MCI. Besides the minimal story, jump scares, and gameplay, the main take people had back in the day was how silly it was for our main character security guard, whose name we learn is Mike Schmidt, to keep coming back, once it's very apparent how dangerous the animatronics are. This is what we nowadays would call ludonarrative dissonance, which is a very pretentious way of saying that the gameplay and the story are out of sync. The story tells you that the animatronics are dangerous and that you have to fight for survival, but the gameplay makes you come back for 5 nights, which no reasonable person would. The character only acts the way they do during the gameplay sections because the story demands it, even if it conflicts with the story. And a lot of people noticed and made fun of this back in 2014. And oh, how wrong they were. You see, the fact that the Night Guard comes back after the first night is extremely crucial to the ongoing plot of the series, but it will take 4 more games for us to realize what that reason he comes back is. And now we're going to transition away from the game, and we're going to start talking about the story. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is a Chuck E. Cheese analog within the universe the game takes place. During the day, the restaurant is a fun kids party destination where families can watch an animatronic band and eat pizza. The band members are Freddy the Bear, Bonnie the Bunny, and Chica the Chicken. Off the main stage is Pirate's Cove, where Foxy the Fox Pirate resides. But he's out of order. Freddy is the leader and the only character not named directly after the type of animal he is. His name is actually a play on Teddy Bear. He is Freddy Bear, conjuring the image of a soft, cuddly friend more so than a frightening, wild grizzly. There's a help wanted ad in the local newspaper. Freddy's is looking for a night shift security guard to work from midnight to 6 a.m. The newspaper claims the company is not responsible for injury or dismemberment. It pays $120 a week. Upon arriving for the first night, the player character, Mike Schmidt, sits down alone in the security guard's office. Around him are posters, drawings, and toys. The largest poster says, "Celebrate," and depicts the main stage with Bonnie, Freddy, and Chica, a brick wall behind them and cloud decorations floating by their heads. On the desk are several old TVs, Trash in the form of crumpled tinfoil, a soda cup, papers, and a constantly spinning fan. On one of the monitors is a pink cupcake with a single candle and its eyes staring directly at you. Children's crayon drawings are pinned to the wall. One depicts a boy with a green shirt labeled Me, opening a present with Bonnie inside. It's titled My Fun Day. Another, also titled My Fun Day, but in pink, shows 8 balloons, with another off to the side having just popped. A yellow My Fun Day drawing shows a boy opening a small present with Freddy and 5 other children watching. Purple My Fun Day shows Freddy giving a child a present. A cut-off drawing shows a child and Chica standing by a cake with Freddy watching, and a final paper shows the lower half of Bonnie's head. There are speakers on the floor under the desk, however they are covered in cobwebs. On the security cameras, Mike can see most of the building. There are blind spots just outside the office. The camera to the kitchen is broken, and the camera footage is very staticky. Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie start the night on the stage, and Foxy is behind the curtain at Pirate Cove, which is closed and out of order. Foxy's body is noticeably damaged, so perhaps the state of the animatronic is the reason for this closure. Throughout the night, Bonnie and Chica will wander around. Bonnie might walk up to your left door, and Chica may wander toward the right. Foxy is constantly in a state of coming to get you. Looking at the security cameras causes them to emit a light, like the red light on a camera to indicate it's recording, and this light freezes Foxy in place. Freddy also makes his way toward you, but for him the system is a little different. You have to specifically be watching the camera he is on to freeze him in place, almost like he can tell he's being watched. On the first night, the phone rings, and Mike Schmidt hears the following message from Phone Guy.
Hello? Hello? I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night. I actually worked in that office before you. I'm finishing up my last week now, as a matter of fact, so I know it can be a bit overwhelming, but I'm here to tell you there's nothing to worry about. You'll do fine. So let's just focus on getting you through your first week, okay? Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for damage to property or person. Upon discovering that damage or death has occurred, a missing person report will be filed within 90 days or as soon as property and premises have been thoroughly cleaned and bleached and the carpets have been replaced. Blah, blah, blah. Now, that might sound bad, I know, but there's really nothing to worry about. The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night, but do I blame them?
He said
No.
the thing!
If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and I never got a bath, I'd probably be a bit irritable at night too. So remember, these characters hold a special place in the hearts of children and we need to show them a little respect, right? Okay. So just be aware, the characters do tend to wander a bit. They're left in some kind of free roaming mode at night. Something about their servos locking up if they get turned off for too long. They used to be allowed to walk around during the day too, but then there was the bite of 87. Yeah. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know? Now, concerning your safety, the only real risk to you as a night watchman here, if any, is the fact that these characters, if they happen to see you after hours, probably won't recognize you as a person. They'll most likely see you as a metal endoskeleton without its costume on. Now, since that's against the rules here at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, they'll probably try to forcefully stuff you inside a Freddy Fazbear suit. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if the suits themselves weren't filled with cross beams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. So you can imagine how having your head forcefully pressed inside one of those could cause a bit of discomfort and death.
We learn from this call that Phone Guy worked here before us, recorded various messages that we'll hear as the nights go on, and now no longer works for the company. The setup is a little weird because he recorded these messages a week ago and left them for us, and each one is delivered to us as a phone call, but it's a recording. The phone is programmed to ring at midnight each night with a different message even though all of them were already recorded, which is weird considering what happens later. Phone Guy alludes to the character singing the same stupid songs for 20 years. This date will eventually become important, but for now it just means the restaurant has been around for a while and has clearly seen better days. He also mentions the bite of 87. One of the animatronics bit someone's head, which is unfortunate. Although we can gather that Phone Guy was employed back in 1987, which further teaches us some history of the building. The most alarming part, of course, is that the Phone Guy says the animatronics won't recognize Mike as human
Here
after
I
hours, but
am.
will think we're a naked endoskeleton. It's very unclear why this is the case, and what about it being night makes them
Hi,
unable to
guys.
recognize humans. I'll get back to that. The phone call for Night 2 only includes gameplay information describing how to use the cameras and how Foxy's
Also-
mechanic works. Night 3 has more story bits, with Phone Guy stating,
Most people don't last this long. I mean, you know, they usually move on to other things by now. I'm not implying that they died. That's not what I meant.
It's unclear if he's actually being serious or not. It might just be there to set the spooky mood. Or maybe a bunch of employees have died, I don't know. I think it's more likely that nobody else has died because this topic never comes up again in the entire series. Some people interpret this as saying that there have been many other night security guards, but that's not how I interpret it. I think that he's just saying that even the daytime shift and the daytime workers have a high turnover rate. It says that he was the last security guard. So again, I just think that the high turnover rate is for the day crew. Night 4 has one of the most important story moments for the entire series. Take a listen.
Oh, hey, wow, day 4. I knew you could do it. Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow. It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did. Hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm gonna try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
Phone Guy just died. Now stuff is getting real. For the tone of the game, obviously, this is meant to ramp up tension for the final nights of the game. Now it's actually hard. Now the tutorial guy is dead. The wise old master has died, and now you must rise above him. Also, I bet Scott really regrets this, because it really limits storytelling going forward. So the animatronics killed Phone Guy, and his body has been in the back room since before you started working here. Yeah, there's no way he's still alive. R.I.P. Phone Guy. So these animatronics, these monsters, are the real deal. Sure, in game over screens, they've killed you before if you fell at the game, but that's not technically canon. Obviously, your character Mike survives to the end of the game, but now, in the story, canonically, they have killed. These things are murderers, monsters. Clearly, they are pure evil. Or not, maybe they have a good reason to kill the phone guy, I don't know. The Night 5 phone call sounds like this. This audio is broken text from the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramhansa Yoganda.
Agricultural development is needed by fully using your marvelous mechanism. Would it not be easily possible to employ some of them in quick laboratory experiments to indicate the influence of various fertilizer on plant growth? You are right. Capitalism will be made by few generations. Seldom knows and perennial. The joy of creating.
The book is somewhat famous and is definitely something Scott may have picked up and read just by going to college or being recommended it by a friend. People like Steve Jobs swear that it's like the greatest book ever. The final line became really popular in the fandom and birthed the phrase, the joy of creation, which became a sort of tagline for the series. It brings to mind a sort of Frankenstein-like character, a mad scientist who derives their pleasure, their happiness from creating things, even if those things are abominations. But this is a misquote. The line is actually, the joy of creative service. But that doesn't mean it's not important. Scott's writing and the fandom interpretation of the games are a sort of twin snake Ouroboros. They feed into each other in a constant loop. So even though that wasn't Scott's intention, it's very possible that the fans interpreting the game this way led to the mad scientist Dr. Frankenstein character, who would eventually become the antagonist of the series. Now, if my college degree in English literature with a focus in creative writing and a minor in philosophy has taught me anything, it's not to spend $120,000 on a liberal arts degree, but if it's taught me two things, it's when a work references or alludes to another work, that other work is important to the text's themes. And that means that a true deep dive into FNAF would require reading Autobiography of a Yogi in order to understand Scott's true intentions. But this video is long enough, and the lore is so deep that adding in an entire tangent about a 90-year-old barely related book would just be gratuitous. So the book starts with a chapter about yoga.
Not.
The phone call on night 5,
What's
the
up?
one that quotes Autobiography
I'm not
of
gonna
a
learn about a
Yogi,
book.
was obviously recorded and programmed to play on our 5th night
Oh,
after
yeah.
the phone guy died. Either phone guy was listening to the audiobook and the recording picked it up, or it was something more spiritual. One of the spirits is making us hear this for some reason. After night 5, you receive
Are
your
you playing
paycheck.
anything while
Mike
watching
Schmidt
this?
made $120, and the date is November 12th of
I'm looking
some
at jobs
year.
right now.
Based on this information,
good.
Mike was making $4 an
I applied
hour.
for Burger
but that was
King.
his
That's only
take-home
like the only
money.
thing that
That doesn't
seems
count Social Security or taxes, so he was making more than
workable
4,
for me.
but not significantly more than 4. In 1990, the minimum wage was raised to $4.25, and in 96, it was raised to $4.75. Also, in 1990, the Social Security tax rate was raised to 6.2% of a paycheck. Medicare was also 1.4%. These have not changed since 1990. That means that 7.65% of your paycheck gets taken out before you see it. So if you take home $120, you actually earned $129.93.
That's only what
That's
I'm gonna do.
$4.33 an hour. So the game takes place in November of 1990, 91, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We will be able to pin this date down later. After completing night 5, we come back for some overtime. After night 6, we get this pink paycheck for $120.50, and we are Employee of the Month. There is then a night 7, or custom mode, where you can set the aggressiveness of the animatronics. After beating this night, Mike is promptly fired for tampering with the animatronics, general unprofessionalism, and odor. They really don't want you touching these animatronics and getting their stinky corpse rot on you. This is the story of FNAF 1,
Stinky
but what I left
corpse
out are
rot,
the
yes.
random details and random events that can happen while you're playing. The Easter eggs. Randomly, posters on
TikTok
the wall will
Live
change
ended.
and show you a yellow bear
Oh, did it?
costume with lifeless eyes.
Yeah.
And
I'm watching it right
occasionally,
now.
a full, slumped-over
Really?
suit will appear in front of
Yeah.
you in the room.
Oh, I just
Flashing
looked. It
faces of
said
the
it wasn't.
animatronics
I
will
wasn't
also take
on.
up the entire screen, accompanied by the words, "It's me." This is often misstated online as being text that accompanies pictures of the
On.
yellow bear, but it's actually all of the
Crazy.
animatronics. And the sign outside of Foxy's curtain will also change to "It's me." People have
Yeah,
since
it's still
associated
going.
these words with the yellow bear,
Yes, it
but there's
is.
actually nothing
What the
connecting
heck?
them except
That's
for the
weird.
fact that they're both hallucinations. Hallucinations. Besides the newspaper clippings, this suit was the only real indication that something supernatural was going on. Also, the poster sometimes changed to this crying sad boy face. The yellow bear suit is obviously haunted, and it can teleport around. If you keep looking at it, your game will crash, and that's spooky. Markiplier dubbed this character Golden Freddy, and the community would take to this name. Eventually, that would become the name the games referred to him as in a meta way, like in the game's menus and settings he would be called Golden Freddy. But within the story, he has a different name, and we'll get back to that later. So, who is me? Why did the animatronics kill Phone Guy? Why does Mike come back every day despite the threat of death? Well, now is when we talk about MatPat. MatPat is an internet personality who runs a massive YouTube network focused on theory channels. He is the showrunner and narrator of videos on the channels Game Theory, Film Theory, Food Theory, and Style Theory, as well as uploading Let's Plays on the channel Game Theory Live. Game Theory has been around for over 10 years, and in the early 2010s focused mainly on nostalgic, evergreen Nintendo titles, and the occasional modern hit, like the burgeoning Assassin's Creed franchise. After the original Five Nights at Freddy's was released, MatPat was inundated with requests to solve the game's lore. Originally, he was apprehensive to do so because the game's story was so cut and dry. Matt decided to go a different route for his video. Matt makes several styles of game theory videos. Sometimes he talks about the overt story of a game and dissects them like you would a novel in English class. Sometimes he goes over the historical accuracy of games, or what secret meanings they might have given the context of their creations. And sometimes he just chugs a green smoothie trying to give himself super strength. Yes, this happened. So for FNAF, with the story simple and seemingly solved, Matt decided to look into what the game might be saying on a deeper level, leading to what I believe should be the most controversial video on his channel. I don't think Matt will ever take it down because it has so many views, and because it started the second era of his channel, where FNAF and games like it dominated the focus of his videos. But to be honest, it's definitely the black sheep of all of his videos. Matt's first FNAF theory is about how the game might have been made to reference a real-world murder that happened at a Chuck E. Cheese's.
December 1993, Aurora, Colorado. 10 p.m. Tuesday night at a local Chuck E. Cheese. At 10:05, he left the bathroom, pulled out a small caliber handgun, and proceeded to execute everyone in the building. This story is the one that inspired Five Nights at Freddy's.
A disgruntled former employee broke in after hours and shot some of his former co-workers, killing them. Matt traces the steps of the killer and the places his victims fell and compares them to the locations in FNAF and the actions of the animatronics.
What?
Matt concludes that the game is telling a story of similar events, and that the
Oh no, this isn't a game. This is real life. This is how what Five Nights at Freddy's was based off of. The active shooting of a guy shooting his colleagues.
Golden Freddy and the animatronics coming to kill you are actually the torment in the afterlife for the killer. This is not true. This was a big stretch at the time, and is certainly, with hindsight, not what the game is about. A lot of people are uneasy about the fact that in this video about FNAF of all things, Matt tells the story of a real-world shooting. It is handled with tact, and Matt says in the video he does not mean to make light of the situation.
This is a tragic story, a disgusting waste of human life, and one that I won't joke about or make fun of in any way.
But the fact is that forever, these people who died not too long ago and who still have families that remember the incident will always have their legacy tied to the funny jump-scare bear game. Matt also uses the real-world shooting to pinpoint the game as taking place in 1993. 93 is when the shooting happened. It fits our minimum wage sweet spot, and in 93, the 12th was a Friday, which makes sense as a day that you'd get your paycheck on. After this video, the community has almost unanimously agreed that Five Nights at Freddy's 1 takes place in 1993. They are wrong. We will get back to that later. MatPat's theory was that the character, Mike, is the murderer, and that the game is his eternal punishment in death, which is why he comes back every day.
It's also a place you can't escape from, why you find yourself back there night after night, even after you complete your 5 nights. See you back next week, the ending text goes. You're unable to leave this terror, the threat of death, the guilt.
This doesn't really make any sense since he gets fired at the end, but it was a creative interpretation at the time.
Well, if you're hearing this, then chances are you've made a very poor career choice.
You know, Scott was really good at making his intros or trailers.
FNAF 2 featured more animatronics, now introducing the toy variations of the core characters. The toys appear alongside the old version of the characters, and some new characters are introduced, like Mangle and Balloon Boy. There are no doors this time around, so to fight back against the animatronics, you have to put on a Freddy mask so they think you are in costume and they won't stuff you. Also, there's a music box you have to wind on one of the cameras, otherwise this creepy marionette will wake up and kill you. The game, much like the first one, revolves around this puzzle of figuring out how to stop each animatronic. The animatronics coming at you from either side of the room can't get you if you're looking at them. They can only move when you're looking at your cameras, but you have to look at your cameras to wind the music box. But you can't just wind the music box and then check the room for creatures and then wait for the box again. You also have to check down the dark hallway in front of you, where Foxy tries to reach you. Foxy can only be stopped by flashing your flashlight at him, which has limited batteries. So you have to juggle the battery usage, your time between winding the box, and also keep checking for the animatronics coming at you through the vent. As it gets harder, it kind of becomes like a rhythm game, where you're doing the same actions over and over and only changing it up if you have to quickly react to something. FNAF 2 is considered the hardest in the series because at some points you need to react fast enough, within a fraction of a second to put your mask on. Funnily enough, FNAF 2 is actually the easiest to beat on console because putting your mask up is as easy as hitting a button, and there's nothing stopping you from pressing the button over and over as you wind the music box, thus always having perfect timing if you need to put the mask on. FNAF 2 was released in November of 2014, about 3 months after the first. FNAF 3 would come not long after, in March of 2015. It's hard to explain for people who weren't there at the time how hype these releases were. FNAF 1 was an instant phenomenon, and I would equate it to how the only pure way to play Pokemon is in the 90s before the internet, where you're swapping rumors and legends back and forth on the playground. So many of them were total garbage, but they sounded true, and some of them were actually true, even though they sounded like total garbage. FNAF 1 was so mysterious, both lore and plot and atmospherically wise, that if someone told you there was a secret way to beat a night faster, you might believe them. And there is. You can literally just press a single button on the keyboard to skip an entire night. Or if you said that there was a 1 in 10,000 chance of seeing something nobody had ever seen before, well, there was kind of that too. There's also a fan theory at the time that Foxy was actually a good guy, and that the reason that he came and ran to your office when you didn't look at the camera long enough was because he was checking on you to make sure that you were okay. And the reason that he doesn't jump scare you, and instead just leans in the door, is because he's not trying to kill you. And the real reason you die is because you have a heart attack when he's in there. That's what counted as interesting discourse at the time. But the mysterious, random appearances of Golden Freddy crashing your game. So that's Golden Freddy, so you don't want to look at it. And the myths about ways to beat Foxy, or patterns you could do to get through the night faster, spread around, kind of like how little kids would spread rumors on a playground and tell you that holding down the B button makes catching a Pokemon easier. Every time a new FNAF game came out, it was like part of the puzzle fit into place better. Each game was like its own puzzle box, with each animatronic being its own riddle. And the trilogy itself was like a puzzle, with each game being its own mystery, and it was structured in such a way that every layer was important. And there was this implied promise that solving it was possible, and that there was this grand revelation in store for whoever could figure it out. When FNAF 2 came out, MatPat of course released a follow-up theory. FNAF 2 had a lot more lore in it. When you die, there's a chance that you might play a minigame that mimics the look of Atari games from the 80s. These minigames introduced the murderer of the series, this purple guy, who the fans call Purple Guy.
Yes,
and we get to see some of his
one
killings.
purple guy.
The gameplay of FNAF 2 is similar to the first. There's 5 nights, but actually 7, and you survive from midnight to 6 a.m., and you gotta stop the animatronics from jump scaring you. The only animatronic who doesn't overtly kill you is Balloon Boy, who sneaks into the room and steals the batteries out of your flashlight, meaning that you can't stop Foxy. This is not instant death, but it's likely death. You also can't be killed by JJ. Who's JJ? JJ is this pink version of Balloon Boy who randomly appears under your desk on very rare occasions. It's literally just there to scare you. But it does mean that JJ exists as an animatronic. He or she is a real important character. There's also an endoskeleton walking around. It does not have a suit. This is, of course, against the rules, and so theoretically he should be getting shoved in a costume, but I guess the rules are different for him. So the first game had Phone Guy, but he's dead. So you might be asking if this game has an equivalent to Phone Guy, and it does. It has Phone Guy.
Hello? Hello and welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I'm here to talk you through some of the things you can expect to see during your first week here, and to help you get started
Everyone
down
was
this new
hyped
and
that
exciting
Phone Guy
career
was
path.
back.
Now, I want you to forget anything you may have heard about
They
the
didn't know
old
why he
location,
was back,
you know.
but he was.
Some people still have a somewhat negative impression of the company. That old restaurant was kind of left to rot for quite a while, but I want to reassure you, Fazbear Entertainment is committed to family fun and above all, safety. They've spent a small fortune on these new animatronics. Facial recognition, advanced mobility.
So Phone Guy is alive, and that's because this game is a prequel. That's right, despite the 2 in the title and all the talk about Freddy's reopening, this game is a prequel. This game takes place in the location before the first FNAF's Pizzeria. And since this is a reopening, that means there was another place before this one. 3 Freddy's locations, with this being the second one, and the one in the original FNAF being the third one. Phone Guy welcomes you to this summer job. That's a mistake. Like, literally, it's a typo. The game takes place in November. Scott will later make fun of this mistake in one of the future games. Okay, so you're a new employee, and your name is Jeremy. And we're told the old restaurant was left to rot. Some people think negatively of the company, and now they're committed to safety. So that first Freddy's location is clearly where the murders happened. Sorry, not the murders, the missing children incident. Missing, not murders. We know that they were stuffed into suits, but bodies were never found, so they weren't murdered, they're just missing. This is my favorite part.
They even let them walk around during the day. Isn't that neat?
If you remember the phone calls from FNAF 1, then you know what this means. Animatronics would walk around during the day until the bite of 87, meaning this game takes place before the bite of 87. I love Scott's cough there, because he knows that we know exactly what that means.
You're only the second guard to work at that location. The first guy finished his week, but complained about conditions. We switched him over to the day shift.
Jeremy is also the second night guard at this location. The first complained about poor conditions and was changed to the day shift. He only worked for 1 week before switching, meaning that your first day is the building's 8th day of operations.
By now, I'm sure you've noticed the older models sitting in the back room. Those are from the previous location, and we just use them for parts now. But they were just so ugly, you know? And the smell. Those older ones shouldn't be able to walk around. But if they do, the whole Freddy head trick should work on them too. So, whatever.
The Night 2 phone call mentions that the old animatronics are being kept in the back room for parts. They're from the old location. These are called the withered animatronics because they're kind of decrepit, but it also tells us that these suits are from the first location. These are the ones with the bodies in them, and they're present in this building.
I'll be honest, I never liked that puppet thing. It's always thinking, and it can go anywhere. I don't think the Freddy mask will fool it, so just don't forget the music box.
Phone Guy keeps bringing up the puppet animatronic that can be stopped by winding the music box. He says it can go anywhere. That basically means it can float and fly. He also says it's always thinking. Now, when you first boot up the game, you're met with this cutscene. You're in the location from FNAF 1. Your point of view is inside Freddy's head, and you're just looking around. When the scene ends, the words, "It's me," appear on screen. These scenes, which the game's files label as nightmares, happen between every night, until, eventually, the puppet comes and stares at you. So someone is saying, "It's me," to someone. Maybe to the spirit inside of Freddy, but I think it's more likely it would be being said to the person having the nightmare. Someone is saying, "It's me," to a person who is dreaming that they're Freddy. And since "It's me" was said to Mike Schmidt in FNAF 1, I think the person dreaming that they're Freddy is Mike. Now, the puppet is not in FNAF 1, so this either indicates that after the events of the game we're currently playing, Mike will eventually dream about his time in the FNAF 1 location and then the puppet will appear. Or it implies that the first Freddy's location, where the MCI happened, is the same physical building as the FNAF 1 location. They opened in that building, the children vanished, they closed down, they opened this new building, it closes after the bite of 87, then they go back to the location in the first game, and then that one also closes by year's end. This would mean that these dreams about the puppet take place before the main gameplay of FNAF 2. And I think that that's the explanation. I think that's it, but we'll get back to that. Phone Guy also says that the old location was left to rot, and FNAF 1 is definitely rotting by the time of the game. On night 3, Phone Guy talks about Foxy, his favorite little boy. He says they redesigned Foxy to be more kid-friendly, but the kids tore him apart. So this Foxy is now called Mangle. At the end of the phone call is the most interesting and annoying part of the story.
Oh, hey, before I go, I wanted to ease your mind about any rumors you might have heard lately. You know how these local stories come and go and seldom mean anything. I can personally assure you that whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our establishment. It's just all rumor and speculation, people trying to make a buck, you know.
High power.
Our guard during
It's
the
no
day has
worries.
reported nothing unusual, and
Your
he's on watch from
power.
opening till close.
So he's talking about rumors you've heard lately. So not the MCI, new rumors. He also says that whatever is happening is going on out there. Not here at this location. Not more kids disappearing here. Instead, it's things going on outside this building that people, for some reason, are linking to the company. And we'll get back to that. Thankfully, we have our daytime security guard to protect us. You know, the one who worked the first week
Oh,
of
that's
night shifts?
nice.
He's got our back.
Hello. Okay, so just to update you, there's been somewhat of an investigation going on. We may end up having to close for a few days. I don't know. I want to emphasize, though, that it's really just a precaution. Fazbear Entertainment denies any wrongdoing. These things happen sometimes. It'll all get sorted out in a few days. Just keep an eye on things, and I'll keep you posted.
Okay, so now whatever rumors were just rumors last night are a real investigation. And Fazbear is involved. The way he says these things happen sometimes makes me think these aren't murders. There aren't dead kids appearing everywhere. This is about something else.
Just as a side note, though, try to avoid eye contact with any of the animatronics tonight if you can. Someone may have tampered with their facial recognition systems. We're not sure. But the characters have been acting very unusual, almost aggressive towards the staff. They interact with the kids just fine, but when they encounter an adult, they just stare.
So the animatronics, the toys specifically, started acting up on day 4. The day before night 4. Reading between the lines, we can interpret that perhaps the same incident that led to these rumors to become an Phone Guy did say they're connected to a criminal database. So maybe now that the police are involved and a criminal has been entered into the database regarding missing kids at Freddy's, maybe now they're on high alert about all adults in the building.
Hey, keep a close eye on things tonight, okay? From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, you know.
Okay, so the location is now basically an active crime scene. Got it.
Especially concerning any previous employees.
Well, we know about one previous employee, the previous week's night guard turned day guard who has our back. He's a suspect, obviously, but he hasn't been arrested, which means he might try to come back.
When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. A position just became available.
Again, this shows that the day shift guard is probably guilty and was fired.
We don't have a replacement for your shift yet, but we're working on it. We're going to try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years, though. I doubt we'll be able to track anybody down.
Okay, so now we have a new name. Fredbear's Family Diner, and its original owner, who for now we'll just call the owner. Fredbear's Family Diner is not the location where the MCI happened. That was explicitly referred to as being a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So you have Fredbear's Family Diner, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza number 1, where the MCI happened, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza number 2, where we are right now, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza number 3, where the original game took place. Alright, so you beat Night 5 and you get your paycheck. Jeremy Fitzgerald, $105.50, dated November 12th, 1987.
Was that the bite of 87?
This game doesn't just take place
Yeah,
before
babe,
the
how do you
bite
not
of
know
87.
about this stuff?
It takes place
No, I
right
know.
before the bite. This screen recontextualizes the game and should definitely cause fear in anyone playing it because you know that the bite is now right around the corner. But this screen also does something else important. The 5th night is November 12th, the same date as the 5th night in FNAF 1. But now we know for sure that it's 1987, and November 12th, 1987 was a Thursday. That makes the next day Friday the 13th. It also means that weeks at Freddy Fazbear's go Sunday to Thursday, not Monday to Friday. And that makes sense. My job, my real day job, we get paid on Thursdays. A lot of places have the weekend on Friday, but it's not like a hard and fast rule. It's not a law. The assumption was that in FNAF 1, the 5th night was Friday. But it's not. It's Thursday. That makes the 6th night Friday and the 7th Saturday, making the whole week run from Sunday to Saturday. So that means we know that in the original FNAF, we're looking for a year where November 12th is a Thursday, and in 1992, November 12th is a Thursday. And this probably is not some retcon. It makes perfect sense that when Scott was making FNAF 1, he intended the week it took place to have a Friday the 13th. The community thinks that FNAF 1 takes place in 1993 because MatPat said it did. He got that date, 1, assuming that they would get paid on a Friday, and 2, because that's when the real-life shooting took place. This first assumption is just an assumption, and textual evidence from FNAF 2 just completely disproves it, and then the second one is wrong. The reason people say 93 is because MatPat said it 10 years ago, and it just stuck.
Hello? What on earth are you doing there? Didn't you get the memo? The place is closed down, at least for a while. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back.
KIRBO.
Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right.
Okay, this is a lot to throw at us. We're not just on lockdown, we're closed. Evidence was found that somebody used a suit in the back, a spare one, a yellow one. The newspapers in FNAF 1 say that somebody lured the kids in the back for the MCI using a mascot costume. But remember, in the MCI, they didn't find the bodies. So this is a different crime. And who pulled it off? The daytime security guard. The old suits, the withered suits from the first location, well, they're already stuffed. They're smelly and rotten and haunted. The MCI already happened. So this is more dead kids? Question mark? Phone guy still doesn't say anything about dead kids, just that one of the suits was used and that there was some sort of crime. What was it though? I guess we'll see. The final phone call finishes like this.
Listen, just finish your shift. It's safer than trying to leave in the middle
How long
of
is
the
the
night.
video?
8 hours.
Yeah.
We have
Over
one
8
more event
hours.
scheduled for tomorrow.
Almost 9 hours.
You'll be on day shift. Wear your uniform. Stay close to the animatronics and make sure they don't hurt anyone, okay? For now, just make it through the night. When the place eventually opens again, I'll probably take the night shift myself.
So tomorrow, Jeremy is going to be on the day shift for one last party. The last party that's going to happen at this location. And we know it's pre-Bite of 87 because the animatronics walk around during the day. And tomorrow is the last opportunity for that to happen. And Jeremy is going to stay close to the animatronics.
No, we're
which
not finishing
aren't
the whole
acting
thing.
right and don't like adults. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy is going to get bit. He's going to lose his frontal lobe tomorrow. The Bite of 87 happens after night 6. What's interesting is that in FNAF 1, Phone Guy refers to it as the Bite of 87, which implies, 1, that there's more than one bite, and 2, implies that it's the most important event that happened around this time. Nobody would call it the Bite of 87 if there were 5 murders the same week. I don't think anybody would be saying, oh yes, the Bite of 87, of course, if the week before an ex-employee had killed multiple kids in the store. But we'll get back to that.
No,
Now
no,
I'm
not.
going to talk about those 8-bit Atari minigame, also
I
called
wish.
death minigames. When you die, when you get a game over, they have a random chance to appear. There are 4 minigames in all, and they tell a very disjointed but important story. Each game is referred to by the fans by the text that appears on the screen when you play them. This is Take Cake to the Children. That's clearly not its title, that's its instructions. But there you go. You play as Freddy, and you have him take cake to kids. In the background, a deep robotic voice is reciting letters. Save him. Outside the building is a child, crying. A car pulls up and a purple man
in the
walks
stream?
out, killing the child, then drives away. The puppet
Yeah,
then
stream
jump
open
scares you.
power.
This minigame depicts the murder of the child that possesses the puppet
Yeah,
by
he's
this
watching.
purple man. The next minigame is Foxy, Go Go Go.
There
You play
it
as
is.
Foxy running out of Pirate's Cove. You run to a group of kids and confetti goes off. You do this 2 more times, but on the 3rd time, a purple man with a smile watches. You run to the right and find 5 dead kids on the floor. You are then jump scared by Foxy. These are the 5 MCI kids. the ones killed at the first Freddy's Pizza. We know this doesn't take place in the FNAF 2 location because FNAF 2 does not have a Pirate's Cove. This is the original murders before the kids get stuffed. The presence of Pirate's Cove is further evidence that the original pizzeria is the same from FNAF 1. The next you play as the puppet in a room of 4 dead kids. Now we're told that 5 kids went missing in the MCI from the newspapers in FNAF 1, and we've seen 5 kids killed in the restaurant, and 1 outside of it. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, and the puppet. The puppet goes around to the dead kids and gives them gifts. Within the lore of the in-universe Freddy's, the puppet is supposed to do this. The puppet gives presents to kid at the prize counter. They exchange tickets for prizes and the puppet presents them, but when the gifts don't work on the dead kids, the puppet gives them life. The puppet puts their spirits in the suits. It's unclear if this means the puppet is who stuffed the kids in the suits or if Purple Guy did it to hide the bodies. That has not been cleared up to this very day, but either way, the animatronics came to life because of the puppet. In the background, the robotic voice is spelling out, help them. Once you give the last child life, Golden Freddy jump scares you. But for a moment before the jump scare, a 5th body appears on the floor. There you go, 6 dead kids, 1 killed outside, 5 killed inside, each one possessing the original animatronics from FNAF 1, and the outside kid possessing the puppet. There's only one more minigame. It's called Save Them. You play as Withered Freddy in the FNAF 2 location. You can tell because the map is the same as the one you see on your cameras. That means this minigame takes place long after the other ones. The MCI has already happened, the animatronics were possessed, and now the second pizzeria was opened. The voice spells out, save them. Chica, Foxy, and Bonnie's withered suits are in the back, but around the restaurant are puddles of blood and bodies. The box that houses the puppet is open. The toy animatronics are standing on their stage. Mangle is moving around, already animated. Golden Freddy sits slumped in a corner. There are 5 bodies to find, but 6 puddles of blood. Mangle is already moving around, already brought to life somehow. The 5 bodies will now possess Balloon Boy, Toy Chica, Toy Freddy, Toy Body, and Endoskeleton. And the 6th puddle of blood implies a possible 6th body, under the table, where JJ hides. Mangle is already possessed, that's why he's walking around. I really can't think of a reason to have specifically him move around when the others can't, unless there's a real reason. And we'll get back to that much later. The issue with this clear implication from the game is that it's wrong. As Withered Freddy, you walk around the building until you are jump scared by Purple Guy. The game will also end if you touch various objects like the puppet's open box. You can also see the puppet floating around. But the point is clear, Purple Guy has killed again. These aren't the 5 MCI kids who were killed and put into suits at the previous location. This is 5 or 6 new murders. Purple Guy is back at it again at the present day, killing kids within the 2-week period in which the FNAF 2 location is open. Now here's the issue. This clearly implies the toys are possessed by these kids, but they're not. I think the Purple Guy intended to have these kids possess the toy animatronics, but it didn't work. These dead FNAF 2 kids are never named. We never see them again in the entire franchise. They are, for all intents and purposes, unimportant. We also explicitly see the puppet give life to the original 5 murder victims. We never see the puppet give life or help possess the toy animatronics. We'll talk about Purple Guy's motivations for killing later, but I think he wanted to test possession, and it does not work. The community calls this event the Dead Children's Incident, or DCI, because a bunch of kids are dead. But just like the missing children incident, I don't think the bodies are found. I think the incident is just the kids went missing. Obviously, it's confusing to call them both the missing children incident, but in the original, the Purple Guy lured kids to the back room while the building was in operation, whereas this time, he's kidnapping kids from around town. So I think this one should be called the Kidnapped Children's Incident, the KCI. There's also a legitimate group of people who don't think that the DCI even happened, because it's never brought up again, and that this is a metaphor or something. Okay, so now we have all of the events in the game. So, what is the timeline? What is the actual story? On night 3, Phone Guy mentions rumors.
Rumors you might have heard lately?
He says lately, which to me makes it seem like it's been at least a few days since these rumors would have started spreading. Phone Guy seems legitimately shook when the police investigation starts, so I don't think that the rumors are that 5 kids were killed in the restaurant a few days ago. I think it's something else. I think that what's happening is the kids are disappearing around town. Phone Guy says things are happening, quote, out there.
That whatever is going on out there,
outside the restaurant, and kids go missing occasionally. Maybe they ran away, or maybe it's a kidnapping. It is tied to Freddy somehow, probably because some witnesses saw someone using a yellow suit, a Freddy suit, luring the kids away, or possibly because the kids who were kidnapped all visited Freddy's the day before they died, or something. There was a real-life murder, a mass shooting a few years ago, and the evil individual who carried out this shooting was obsessed with the character from the Nickelodeon show Danny Phantom. And he thought that he was killing people for her, and when he shot himself at the end of the ordeal, he thought he would be joining her in the ghost world. I think that if people were to hound Nickelodeon for comment, they would say something to the effect of,
whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our establishment.
I think it's reasonable that people know the disappearances are Freddy's related, but they don't know that the perpetrator is the security guard. The way the Save Them minigame is set up, I think it's pretty clear that this is at night. The building is not open to the public. There's no one around to see the murders. I think this is happening at night, meaning it happened when Purple Guy was still the night security guard. It happened a day or two before we started our job. That doesn't mean all the kidnappings happened in one night, but it's likely that the actual killing of the kids happened close together. Purple Guy kidnaps some kids around town, hides them at Freddy's, kills them one night to try to experiment with possession, cleans up the blood and bodies by the morning, and because the puppet and Withered Freddy are chasing him around the building, he complains about the conditions. He's also done his murders anyway, so he's satisfied, so he gets switched to the day shift. Then you come in, Jeremy. The Wizards, which Phone Guy said should not be able to move around,
those older ones shouldn't be able to walk around.
well, they come after you. I think this indicates that they've been awoken from their apathetic slumber after these new murders, and are now coming for you either because you're an adult, or because you're in a security guard uniform. I don't think the Wizards were active before these murders, that's what I'm implying. A few days pass. The police actually come and investigate. On night 4 is when the toys start acting weird to adults. So as I said earlier, I think the criminal database has been updated, and now they're looking for a killer. The place is going to shut down for a few days for this investigation, but I don't think anything has been found yet. On night 5, the building is on lockdown. The Purple Guy is a suspect. I think that day they found traces of blood, and the security guard is the suspect, so he ran for it. The kidnapped kids have now been directly tied to Freddy's, and specifically this location, but the method hasn't been confirmed yet. Night 6 is when everything has come to light. Purple Guy used an old suit, a yellow one, and now none of them are acting right. I don't think that means that now on night 6 none of them are acting right. I think Phone Guy has retroactively realized that none of the suits have been acting right since the murders, once again explaining why the Wizards are walking around. At this point in time, we are aware of 2 suits that are old and yellow. That's Golden Freddy and Withered Chica. However, neither of them are suits. They're animatronics. In real life Chuck E. Cheese, there are animatronics that perform on stage, and there are also the mascot suits worn by the staff to walk around. We know that suits exist at Freddy's because someone wore a mascot suit to lure kids to the back room for the MCI. But we don't see these suits. We only see animatronics. We have cameras that can basically look everywhere, and there are no mascot costumes. So even though he says that it was an old yellow suit, I don't think we were ever supposed to think that it was Golden Freddy or Chica. The answer will be revealed in FNAF 3, but people try to say it was either Scott's intention when FNAF 2 came out that it was Golden Freddy, or that we were supposed to think it was Golden Freddy. And I completely disagree. Those are animatronics, not suits. A few more important things to note: in Take Cake to the Children and Foxy Go Go Go, Purple Guy is just purple. But in Save Them, he's wearing a badge. A security shield-shaped badge. So he was a security guard when this happened, which we know. but I think this means he was not a security guard when he killed the one kid outside, or when he killed the first 5 kids by Foxy. The puppet also has tear tracks on his face, which is similar to how dead children are usually shown with tears. I already mentioned it, but Mangle is the only animatronic during Save Them that is moving. Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica don't move. The toys don't move. Only Mangle. I think that's kind of important, and we'll get back to that. So that's the gameplay and the story of FNAF 2, but there's more to go over. For one, we didn't talk about the ending yet. After beating Night 6, the night before Jeremy gets bitten, we get a newspaper clipping, detailing what is clearly the bite of 87. The toys are getting scrapped and the Withereds are going to be repaired and used for a possible reopening. That, of course, being the location in FNAF 1. Believe it or not, when the game first came out, there was a lot of debate about whether it was a sequel or a prequel, despite the phone guy being alive, and it also directly stating that it's in 1987. Alright, now let's talk about Night 7. With Jeremy getting crunched on after Night 6, there has to be a new security guard on Night 7, and there is. There is no phone call this time. Phone Guy said he'd be taking the position after us, but we know this isn't Phone Guy. Much like in FNAF 1, the Night 7 guard gets fired at the end of the night. His name is Fritz Smith. He's fired for tampering with the animatronics and odor, with a note pointing out that it's his first day. He's fired for the same reason as Mike Schmidt, which is interesting. He's also labeled as employee number 3, indicating that Purple Guy was 1, Jeremy was 2, and Fritz is 3. We know he's not Phone Guy because he got fired, and Phone Guy does not get fired. Now we're going to talk about the Easter eggs. Just like in the first game, there's a chance to see Golden Freddy in FNAF 2. You can find withered Golden Freddy slumped on the floor. His withered state implies that he is a physical animatronic who gets fixed up after FNAF 2 and before FNAF 1. He's not just a ghostly apparition, he's a physical animatronic that still exists and is being moved from location to location. You can also be killed by his head flying down the hallway, which indicates more that he does have supernatural powers. Phasing in and out of existence is not his only ability. In the background of the party room, there's these little guys made out of paper plates, and they can just kind of disappear and reappear in the office. I don't know what that means for the lore. I already talked about JJ and the Naked Endoskeleton, but there's also Shadow Freddy. Shadow Freddy is just like Golden Freddy, but he's all black in an otherworldly type of way. Then there's Rick Fafaska, or Shadow Bonnie. Shadow Bonnie appears in the office, looks extremely terrifying, and I hate him. He's made out of Toy Bonnie's model, you can tell by the segmented ears and the curved section of the torso. But he has human teeth, instead of Toy Bonnie's buck teeth. Unlike Golden Freddy and even Shadow Freddy, this guy never gets any explanation in future games, and the fact that he's based on Toy Bonnie makes him even more confusing. For now, the only thing to note is that there's a ghostly black void in the shape of Golden Freddy and a black ghostly void in the shape of Toy Bonnie. Also, people have tried finding meaning in the name Rick Fafaska, but likely it means nothing. All those letters are grouped together on the left side of the keyboard, and Scott probably just mashed the keyboard with one hand to name the file. Now we're going to talk about the reception and the real-world events after FNAF 2. Let's talk about MatPat again. MatPat's video about FNAF 2 attempted to solve the identity of the Purple Guy. Keep in mind, at this point in the story, there are arguably 6 characters. There's Mike, the guard from the first game, Jeremy, the guard from the second game, Fritz, the Night 7 guard, the original owner of Fredbear's Family Diner, Purple Guy, and Phone Guy. Matt concluded that Purple Guy is Phone Guy. Purple Guy is not Phone Guy. The murderer was in fact a completely different character. He was the murderer, and that's it. I don't think this was a bad theory at the time, but it started a habit that formed in the community of trying to solve mysteries both before all the evidence is available, and also using every single piece of evidence. Nothing in the game can be random, and everything said or shown must be a clue. This would come back to haunt MatPat and the community. MatPat also claimed that this part of Purple Guy's sprite was a phone. And just no, it's not. FNAF 3 was to be the end of the trilogy. On Scott's website, he often uploaded teaser images of upcoming games, and the first look we got of the new game's animatronic was this. An image of the character bathed in shadow, with the text, "I am still here." The source code of the website included the text, "I remain." Source code, in case you're unfamiliar, is what you see when you hit F12 on your keyboard. You get a lot of data about the programming of the website and can see parts of its code. It's very easy to put plain text within source code and have it have no effect on the actual web page. Scott will often hide stuff in the source code of his pages going forward. On January 26, 2015, the trailer for FNAF 3 was released. It showed a decrepit building, and some text appeared sporadically throughout. You're watching it on screen now. He will come back. He always does. Who is he? Well, it's Purple Guy. He killed at 2 Freddy's locations already, obviously, so now he wants to come back. The text, "We have a place for him," is followed by a yellow Bonnie suit twitching on the floor. It's rotting and full of gashes and holes. When the game eventually launched in March of 2015, it came with an interesting and very divisive description on Steam. 30 years after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors, the events that took place there have become nothing more than a rumor and a childhood memory. But the owners of Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, are determined to revive the legend and make the experience as authentic as possible for patrons, going to great lengths to find anything that might have survived decades of neglect and ruin. At first, there were only empty shells, a hand, a hook, an old paper plate doll, but then a remarkable discovery was made. The attraction now has one animatronic. Okay, we need to break this down because it's stupidly complicated. Okay, so Fazbear Fright exists. It's like a theme park horror tour attraction. It's not actually a Freddy's location. The building isn't real, it's just full of memorabilia. Specifically, that teleporting paper plate. Scott, what does the paper plate mean? Obviously, the hook of the game is that there's an animatronic
Yeah, what does
that
the
was
paper
brought in,
plate mean?
and we know it's haunted.
Yeah,
so
I've
we know that
always
this horror attraction now
wanted
has
to
an
know that
actually
as
real
well.
haunted animatronic.
No, I think it's just a
The
paper
issue, its
plate.
description comes in its opening line. 30 years
I think it's
after
just a
Freddy
random
Fazbear's
haunted
Pizza
paper
closed
plate.
its doors, the events that
Yeah.
took place there have become nothing more than a rumor and a
Makes
childhood
the most
memory.
logical sense.
I don't know what your
Mhm.
first thought was reading that, but no matter what you believe, it is very vague.
Maybe one of the
Most people
children's
interpret
souls
this
are
to mean
moving it.
I
that
know
the
I
game is
didn't
set 30
join
years
the
after
It's
FNAF
here
1.
FNAF Lore. I
At
can't
the end of
believe
FNAF
this,
1,
yo.
we're told that the restaurant will close
Shut up,
by year's end.
Alex.
There's no reason to
good
think
as
that there was ever
lore.
another Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
I need
Hi,
to learn.
Alex.
So the company closed its doors of its final restaurant in 1992. That would make this game set in
I'm gonna be so
2022.
relaxed. I'm playing
Keep in mind, a
Roblox
lot
while
of
I
people
watch.
think FNAF 1 is 1993, therefore they think that this game would be set in 2023, but they are wrong. But that's not how I ever interpreted this line, and I am very confused by this line of logic. The line is,
That was
Freddy
impolite.
Fazbear's
You
Pizza
don't have to
closed
shut
its
up.
doors. The company is not Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it's Fazbear Entertainment. If it said Fazbear Entertainment closed its doors, like the company dissolved, then yes, sure, this definitely means when the final restaurant closed.
What game?
But saying the restaurant
What
closed its
game?
doors just means that a restaurant
Car
shut down.
Wash
3
Tycoon, I
Freddy
believe.
Fazbear's Pizzas have shut down. The
Nice.
original after the MCI in 1985,
Yeah.
the second one after the Kidnapped Kids and the Bite of 87 in 1987, and then the FNAF 1 location in 1992. The thing is that the events that
I love
took
how it
place
says
there
R.I.P.
doesn't
phone
really
guy.
make a lot of sense if it's talking about the FNAF
Yeah,
1
well,
location,
he is
or if it
R.I.P.,
means
R.I.P..
multiple different locations. It would have to be talking about multiple
But it's because
locations
it has
if
no
it's talking
time
about
frames.
the
You
murders in
just put
85
R.I.P.
and
phone
also
guy.
the final closing in 92.
Was that the Bite of
No
87?
events took place in the FNAF 1 location except for Phone
Was
Guy.
this the
Oh yeah,
Bite of phone?
Markiplier shows up a
Entertainment
lot
covered
in this
that up.
video.
That location
Of course
shut down
he
because
is.
it was
He's
a
the king of
failed
FNAF.
business.
He's the king of
It's the
FNAF.
only location where there were no murders. If the public is going to have rumors or a legend about a pizzeria, it's going to be the original location. The second location was only open for 2 weeks,
Didn't
so I
Mark
wouldn't say
also
there's a
try
lot of
to learn the lore
childhood
as
memories
well?
that were made there. The location
Same with
the childhood
Puffer and
memories
Pezzy
and
and the
rumors
others
and
and
the
Droid.
legends is the original
All of them
pizzeria.
tried to.
The one that was open
How
for a
many
long
videos on
time
it?
It's Mosh
was
Pit.
not a smaller budget rotting
Yeah, I don't really
decaying
care about
place like
Smosh.
FNAF 1,
Wow.
and actually had the murders in it.
Poor Smosh.
That's what a company would want to replicate and advertise.
They're just a
as
bunch of
horror
actors.
attraction.
I don't really care.
They're funny.
Because of the ambiguity of what Freddy
They are
Fazbear's
funny.
Pizza closed its doors
When they're doing,
means.
they try not
I
to
think all
laugh.
3
When they're doing
interpretations are valid,
reactions,
but it
like I
makes
don't
so
really
much more
care.
sense to me that it's talking about the location that people would remember fondly from their childhood and where the murders happened. In my opinion, the most compelling piece of evidence is that 30 years after the final pizzeria closed its doors would be 2022, which is just a completely random date. The game came out in 2015. It would make no sense for Scott to just decide that it takes place 7 years in the future. It's not like there's futuristic technology, and it's not like we needed time to pass so that narratively characters can grow up. It's actually criticized by the fans that there's this 30-year gap between games where nobody is trying to hunt down Purple Guy. But if it's 30 years after the first pizzeria closed its doors in 1985, that would mean the game takes place in 2015, the year that the game came out. FNAF as a series is all about nostalgia for Chuck E. Cheese, and taking childhood memories and childhood trauma and legends about the place and making it now a nostalgic horror entertainment. FNAF as a series is literally the real-world analog of the horror attraction that Fazbear's Frights is trying to be. And if that's something that Scott is thematically trying to say with the game, then setting it now, when the series is being made, now in 2015, when the public is interested in horror stories about Chuck E. Cheese, well, that makes sense. And it doesn't include this weird inclusion that it's 7 years in the future.
I remember going
And while
to
it doesn't
Chuck E.
really
Cheese,
fix the problem
going
that
into the
people
ticket
have
booth
by
on
saying
my
that
birthday.
decades passed between
Good
games,
I remember
at
how
the very least,
I
it's only
remember I
23
injured
years
myself
instead of
one day
30
going to Chuck E.
years.
Cheese.
I am 100%
That's how I got the scar on
confident
my
that
elbow,
FNAF 1
babe.
takes place in 1992.
I remember
And I
this.
am roughly
I remember the smell
85%
of the play,
confident
please.
that FNAF 3 takes
Ich
place in
danke.
2015. I will continue to go forward with the understanding that that is when the game takes place. Thank you all for letting me have this rant. FNAF 3
Yeah, no
opens
problem, man.
inside a dingy office, although it's probably dingy on purpose. You get a call from Phone Dude, who sounds like a teenager, and the exact kind of person
Phone
who would be
Dude.
running a horror attraction for a bigger company like this. Alright, let's take a listen and then break it down.
Does Chuck E. Cheese taste
Hey,
good?
glad
Nope,
you came
it
back
tasted
for
like
another
cardboard.
night. I promise
But
True.
it's
it'll be a
still
lot more
nostalgic.
interesting this time.
Yeah.
I think this is a meta comment about how you, the player, are back
I mean,
for
I actually
another
like
night
Chuck
at
E.
Freddy's,
Cheese's
and
food.
that this
I'm
game
gonna be
will be
super.
more interesting than the last two.
The pizza
And
was decent,
narratively,
but it tastes
it
like
is.
cardboard.
Gameplay-wise,
Yeah.
not
Well, you're
so much.
expecting too much
But in
from
the
it.
story of the game, this means that it's not your first night on the job. The player character has been here for a while, and that is interesting.
We found some great new relics over the weekend, and we're out
I hate
tracking
new
down a
relics.
lead
Oh
right
my
now.
god.
So, let me just update you real quick, then you can get to work. Like, the attraction opens in
Oh
like a week,
damn.
so we have to make sure everything works and nothing catches on fire.
Well,
When the
you'll
place
never
opens,
have it because
people
Chuck E.
will come
Cheese
in
is
at the
closed.
opposite end of the
Chuck E.
building,
Cheese
It's
closed
still
down.
their
open.
way toward you, and
I'm pretty
A
sure it
few
opens.
attractions
So,
are still open, but
yeah, you've
not.
officially
yeah.
become part of the
It's
attraction.
rare to
You'll
find.
be starring as
Yeah,
a
that's true.
security guard. So not
The
only will you
security
monitor
guard.
people on the camera as they pass through, you know, to make sure no one steals anything or makes out in the corner, but you'll also be a part of the show. It'll make it feel really authentic, I think.
This both describes how the game works. The yellow Bonnie suit will start on the far end of the building and make its way towards you, like he said, but it also tells us that the attraction will be open in 1 week, and that there will be people there from midnight until 6 a.m. It will be open while you're there. It's a horror attraction, so it makes sense, but it's a very different job to be a security guard during operation hours compared to a security guard after closing.
Now let me tell you about what's new. We found another set of drawings, always nice, and a foxy head, which we think could be authentic. Then again, it might just be another crappy cosplay. And we found a desk fan, very old school, metal though. So watch the fingers. Right now the place is basically just, you know, flashing lights and spooky props. I honestly thought we'd have more by now. If we don't have something really cool by next week, then we may have to suit you up in a furry suit and make you walk around saying, boo. But, you know, like I said, we're trying to track down a good lead right now. Some guy who helped design one of the buildings says there was like an extra room that got boarded up, or something like that.
So someone who designed the building and has knowledge of these boarded up rooms has now been introduced into the plot. We know it's not the original owner because he disappeared from the company before even Phone Guy started working there, and we know it's not Phone Guy because he's dead. So now we have this new character, Maintenance Man.
So we're gonna take a peek and see what we can find.
So they're going to an actual old location and are going to see what's behind the boarded up wall.
Some of this equipment is barely functional. Yeah, I wasn't joking about the fire. That
He sounds like a stoner.
This is the longest phone call in the series thus far. If you're wondering why I started talking about the game's story before the gameplay, it's because there is no gameplay on the first night. The one and only animatronic that can kill you, Golden Bonnie, is not in the building yet. You cannot lose on night 1. There is nothing to do. Except for maybe hunt for Easter eggs, but we will get back to that. So on to night 2.
Hey man, okay, I have some awesome news for you. First of all, we found some vintage audio training cassettes. Dude, these are like prehistoric. I think they were like training tapes for like other employees or something like that. So I thought we could like have them playing like over the speakers as people walk through the attraction. Dude, that makes us feel legit, man. But I have an even better surprise for you. You're not gonna believe this. We found one. A real one. Gotta go, man. Well, look, it's in there somewhere. I'm sure you'll see it. Okay, I'll leave you with some of this great audio that I found. Talk to you later, man.
After this, Phone Dude's recording ends. One of these ancient cassette tapes starts playing, and we never hear from Phone Dude again.
Then who was Phone?
But then we hear a familiar voice.
Hello? Welcome to your new career as a performer/entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Phone Guy is back, bro. Okay, so these old cassettes were found at a Freddy's location. The same one where they found the animatronic boarded up in the back room. Obviously, these were recorded back before Phone Guy died before FNAF 1. These are training tapes for an entertainer, a daytime member of staff. Let's take a listen.
These tapes will provide you with much needed information on how to handle/climb into/climb out of mascot costumes.
Mascot costumes. We've heard about mascot costumes twice. FNAF 1 said that in the original Freddy's location, a guy in a mascot suit lured kids into the back, and in FNAF 2, a mascot suit was used in the kidnappings. Let's go.
Right now we have two specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit. So please pay close attention while learning how to operate these suits, as accidents/injuries/deaths/irreparable and grotesque maiming can occur. First, we will discuss how to operate the mascots when they are in animatronic form. For ease of operation, the animatronics are set to turn and walk towards sound cues. This is an easy and hands-free approach to making sure the animatronics stay where the children are for maximum entertainment/crowd-pleasing value. To change the animatronics to suit mode, insert and turn firmly the hand crank provided by the manufacturer.
Part of this is gameplay information. You use sound cues to lure the animatronic away from you in the game, but it also gives us the important context that some suits that might be yellow can also look like animatronics. Golden Freddy is one of these suits, that's what I'm getting at. Why is he slumped over? Why can't he move and walk around like the others? Because he's in suit mode. And this gives the important detail
doesn't have an
that the
endoskeleton.
manufacturer of the animatronics and suits is not Fazbear Entertainment.
Turning the crank will recoil and compress the animatronic parts around the sides of the suit, providing room to climb inside. Please make sure the spring locks are fastened tight to ensure the animatronic devices remain fixed. We will cover this in more detail in tomorrow's session. Remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Alright, so we can stop calling this Golden Bonnie. This suit is Springlock Bonnie, and Golden Freddy is Springlock Freddy. These are the Springlock suits. They're different than normal suits, and different than normal animatronics, and they're dangerous. Let's get on to the gameplay. Like I said earlier, Spring Boy here starts on the far side of the building. He slowly makes his way towards you, and you can use sound cues to lure him back away from you. He can crawl through vents or walk in your direction, but using sound cues to move him to the furthest point is easy enough. There are some issues though. Looking at the cameras for too long gives you a video error, and you have to reset it, which takes time. You have a limited number of audio lures before you have to reset the sound. And there's also a ventilation reset. Spring Baby Boy can move while you're looking at him. Unlike the animatronics in the past games, the cameras will turn to static every once in a while, and when that happens, he can move. The game is basically watching him, using lures if he moves, resetting your systems as fast as possible when needed, and not getting jump scared. Within the building are also phantom animatronics. Phone Dude said we might see weird things, and that's what these are. These don't kill you if you see them, but they do make a loud noise and force you to reset your ventilation. The loud noise will bring Spring Boy Me Bob towards you, and resetting obviously means you cannot lure him away. It's really easy to avoid these jump scares by just not flipping to the very limited cameras that they can appear in, or in Foxy's case, just slowly turning left when you need to reset everything to make sure he's not there. These phantom animatronics consist both of characters from FNAF 2, like Balloon Boy, and FNAF 1, like the original Foxy. Now, theories try to use this as evidence that the security guard for FNAF 3
Correct.
has seen both sets of animatronics, those from FNAF 1 and from FNAF 2. This is quite silly. The idea is that the nighttime security guard in the final night of FNAF 2, Fritz Smith, and Mike Schmidt are the same person, and that they are now also the guard here in FNAF 3. He's seen all of the characters, so he is capable of hallucinating all of them. And I think this is weak, because whether or not they're actually hallucinations is up in the air to begin with. Phone Dude says that they're hallucinations, but Phone Dude and Phone Guy's calls are always trying to play down the supernatural elements. And on top of that, Phone Dude might think that they're hallucinations when they're actually phantoms, they're spirits, the place is haunted. They're actually called the Phantom Animatronics. They might be ghosts. If there's any building that's going to be haunted, it's going to be the place where every single piece of surviving Freddy's memorabilia has been gathered and put together. And my second reason for thinking this is quite the silly theory is that you don't need to have been a nighttime security guard to be familiar enough with the animatronics from the locations to hallucinate them. I have in fact had dreams or nightmares about the cast of the Chuck E. Cheese animatronic band. And I am not a security guard at Chuck E. Cheese. I'm just familiar with the characters. In-universe, these are beloved children's entertainment mascots. You don't need to have worked there to know what they look like. There were toys, there were cartoons. This thing has been around for like 50 years at this point. The conclusion that this playable character must be Mike because he's seen the older animatronics is complete nonsense. With that said, the player character is absolutely Mike. There's a lot of other evidence for this, just not requiring him to have seen the animatronics to hallucinate them. You used the wrong equation and got the right answer. The gameplay doesn't really change night to night. You get fewer lures, Spring Bonnie and Clyde moves more often, maybe, and that's it. This is the easiest game in the series. So since that's the entire game from a gameplay perspective, we're gonna get back to the story. Actually, hold on, wait. I'm gonna play for you Spring Bonnie's jump scare. You have been warned. Yeah, that was pretty lame. Between each night as you play, you get an Atari minigame. These do not happen upon death, they happen at the end of every night. In the first one, you, as Freddy, walk around to what is explicitly the FNAF 1 location, with water dripping from the ceiling and rats everywhere. You keep walking until you see Shadow Freddy, who says, "Follow me." You follow him to this doorway, and when you try to go into it, it says, "Error." When you give up and walk away, Purple Guy rushes you and takes you apart, ending the minigame. This repeats every night, with the game giving you control of Chica, Foxy, and Bonnie, to also follow Shadow Freddy to the doorway and be taken apart by Purple Guy. Now, and this is stupidly important, the sprite for Freddy has a bow tie and a button. Bonnie also has a bow tie and a button. The withered animatronics from FNAF 2 have 2 buttons. The rebuilt, remodeled versions in FNAF 1 do not have any buttons. We know that the withereds were transported to a new location and then refurbished. We know that the original Freddy's location where the MCI happened was left to rot. And something that has always bugged me is that the newspaper clippings from FNAF 1 that mention the MCI and that the restaurant was going to close are in the FNAF 1 location. Why would they be there? That's not the restaurant that closed. That's not the one where the MCI happened. Unless it is. Earlier I mentioned that some people think the FNAF 1 location, the third pizzeria, is the original pizzeria where the murders happened. Remember how we know it's a different location from FNAF 2 because it has a Pirate's Cove? Well, FNAF 1 has a Pirate's Cove. So the newspapers being there makes sense. This, in this minigame, is clearly the FNAF 1 location and it's rotting. And we know that it's before FNAF 1 because the withereds still have their buttons. So if the first and the third Freddy's locations are the same place, and these minigames happen after FNAF 2, after the withers are moved back to the smaller location but before FNAF 1, then I believe that Purple Guy disassembling the animatronics is the reason that they appear dramatically different in FNAF 1. They weren't just refurbished, they were rebuilt, meaning that Purple Guy was at the FNAF 1 location before Mike was, and when Phone Guy still worked there. These minigames happened after FNAF 2 and before FNAF 1. Alright, on to the Night 3 phone call.
Hello. For today's lesson, we will be continuing our training on proper suit handling techniques. When using an animatronic as a suit, please ensure that the animatronic parts are tightly compressed and fastened by the spring locks located around the inside of the suit. It may take a few moments to position your head and torso between these parts in a manner where you can move and speak. Try not to nudge or press against any of the spring locks inside the suit. Do not touch the spring locks at any time. Do not breathe on the spring locks, as moisture may loosen them and cause them to break loose. In the case that the spring locks come loose while you are wearing a suit, please try to maneuver away from populated areas before bleeding out, as to not ruin the customer experience. As always, if there is ever an emergency, please go to the designated safe room. Every location is built with one extra room that is not included in the digital map layouts programmed into the animatronics or security system. This room is hidden to customers, invisible to animatronics, and is always off camera. As always, remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
These springlock suits are mildly terrifying. Like in the first game, it says you're going to be shoved into a suit, and it shows you with your eyes popped out if you lose, and like, yeah, that's spooky. But a company purposefully putting you in a suit that can impale you with tiny metal springs all over your body if you breathe wrong, or if you sweat on it, that is horror. If a robot catches me and drags me to a suit, and then, okay, I'm gonna be impaled, I'm dead, that's fine. But the horror and tension of being inside an Iron Maiden for hours, for your entire shift, maybe it's because I'm claustrophobic, but that just gives me so much anxiety. This also tells us what the doorway in the mini-games is. It's a safe room that the animatronics are programmed not to see. That's why they get an error. And it's not on cameras, which is why we didn't see it in FNAF 1. The jump from Night 3 to Night 4's tapes is highly contested. Let's listen to the first part.
Hello. There's been a slight change of company policy concerning use of the suit. Don't. After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees.
Okay, so the first 3 phone calls were training tapes. They were pre-recorded and likely played for every new employee in the business. This tape is more like a memo. On that day, whatever day this happened, the springlock suits springlocked a guy, and Phone Guy had to record this message. For various reasons, I think this happened before FNAF 1 and 2, putting it in the era of the first Freddy's location. In FNAF 2, and remember that location was only open for 2 weeks, in FNAF 2, Phone Guy mentions how the kidnapped children's incident was done by someone using an old yellow suit. That means that these springlocked suits were considered old and probably outdated by the time of FNAF 2, meaning that this incident took place in the first Freddy's Pizzeria. We also get a mention of a sister location. That means another restaurant owned by Fazbear Entertainment. And this is really annoying, because it means there's another restaurant we don't know about. We know about Fredbear's Family Diner, but Phone Guy barely remembers that existing, and he doesn't know its name for sure in FNAF 2, so there's no way that that is the sister location. But there is a pizzeria somewhere out there that has these springlock suits, owned by Fazbear, before FNAF 2, likely in 1985 or earlier, during the time of the original restaurant. And they had springlock suits, but don't anymore. Let's keep listening.
Safety is top priority at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is why the classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location while being looked at by our technicians. Until replacements arrive, you will be expected to wear the temporary costumes provided to you. Keep in mind that they were found on very short notice, so questions about appropriateness/relevance should be deflected. I repeat, the classic suits are not to be touched, activated, or worn. That being said, we are free of liability. Do as you wish. As always, remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
So the suits are being taken away, and technicians, likely from the manufacturer, are going to work on them. Other suits, non-springlock suits, not animatronics, but mascot suits, costumes, are going to be brought in. Phone Guy also calls the springlock suits classic suits. So it's not like when he recorded these tapes they were a new invention. They were classic. They were old. Also, there's these new suits, and they are not relevant or appropriate. Put a pin in that for the next several hours until we touch upon that topic again. On to Night 5, we have another jump in time, another memo from Phone Guy.
Hello?
very quiet. We're leaning.
If the spring lock issue happened yesterday, then I don't think the spring Bonnie suit being moved would have been noticed by management. At least to my ear, this sounds like it's been decommissioned for a little while, and then one day, randomly, it was moved. Phone Guy also says not to lead customers to the safe room. We know that Purple Guy, in a mascot suit, and I'm going to drop the pretense he was in the Spring Bonnie suit, Purple Guy as Spring Bonnie, brought people into that room. But that was caught on camera, and the police used it as evidence. If we had camera footage of Spring Bonnie leading people there, Phone Guy wouldn't have said the suit was noticeably moved. He would have known it was moved. We would have had footage of somebody using it. I don't think this is an indication that the MCI already happened before this memo was recorded. I think this is what inspired Purple Guy to take kids back there. He was already using the spring suit when he wasn't supposed to, and remember, of the 5 dead
Dead
kids,
Bully
only
Yummy
some of
67
them
joined the
were being
bobbers.
brought into the back room, meaning he killed some of them before that using a different method. I think he took the suit, did his first killing, and then after this memo, realized he could start using the back room. If the main part of the MCI had happened and kids were being lured into the restaurant, I think that would have been noticed. After you beat Night 5, you're greeted with the final Follow Me minigame. The core 4 animatronics were all disassembled, so now you play as a child, a ghost of one of the kids, and you make your way to the safe room, past the broken animatronics, finally through that door. Inside are 4 more ghosts, and Purple Guy in a panic. We know there are 5 haunted animatronics, with Golden Freddy being the 5th, but Golden Freddy wasn't disassembled, meaning that the disassembling of the animatronics did not free these ghosts. Golden Freddy's child was able to walk around freely without being disassembled, meaning that has no influence on their ghostiness. And this explains why they're able to repossess the animatronics for FNAF 1. So the ghost chases Purple Guy around for a bit. There are these square things on the ground. Some people think they're boxes, some people think they're arcade cabinets. Phone Guy did say that they put unused things back here, so either one of those examples works. Some people think that they're safes, like this is the safe room where safes are, but Phone Guy specifically said it was for employee safety. This is the safety room, not the safe room. In the corner is the Spring Bonnie suit. Now we don't know if it's been sitting there since 1985 in the MCI, or if it was brought from the FNAF 2 location in 87. But Golden Freddy was brought to the FNAF 2 location, and Phone Guy says someone used an old yellow suit for the kidnapped children incident. So I'm guessing that yes, it was moved around when different locations closed and reopened. Purple Guy theoretically hasn't worn this suit since the kidnappings in FNAF 2 back in 1987, but he gets into it now. Many people interpret this as him getting into the suit he wore when he killed the kids to scare the ghosts. Others look at the actual gameplay and say that wearing a Freddy mask in FNAF 2 tricked the haunted animatronics, so Purple Guy might be wearing this costume to trick the ghosts. I don't buy that at all. The animatronics, when possessed, act like animatronics. They perform during the day, they stuff you when they catch you because it's against the rules. Spring Bonnie himself in this game is set to follow sound, so he can be where the party is. If the spirit inside the suit was in control, he would not be forced to follow those sound cues. The animatronics think like animatronics, so yes, the mask stops them, but there's no reason to think it would stop these ghosts. Anyway, Purple Guy gets spring locked.
The office.
The water dripping down causes a failure in the spring locks, and he gets dead. A fitting end to this murdering psychopath.
What are you doing?
Except it's not the end. Obviously, we've been facing off against Spring Bonnie this whole game. This minigame took place decades ago, and the animatronic is now haunted. Spring Bonnie is Purple Guy, and he's not Spring Bonnie, he's Spring Trap, because he got trapped in the Springlock suit. The animatronic rabbit has a corpse inside of it. In fact, you can actually see that in-game, especially on these secret screens. That's rotting skin and sinew, and that is his skull. That is Purple Guy rotting inside of there, and he was in there during the entirety of FNAF 1. He's been in there for decades, and now he's back. Because he comes back, he always does. The Night 6 phone call explains how that all came to be.
Hello. This is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this one. Work crews will be here most of the day today, constructing a false wall over the old door face. Nothing is being taken out beforehand, so if you left anything inside, then it's your own fault. Management also requests that this room not
This is what you're doing.
family, friends, or insurance representative. Thanks again, and remember to
Oh, volume
smile
super
for
low.
the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
You mean
The company sealed up the safe room
There you
without
go.
even looking inside, so Purple Guy, spring-locked, sat there, twitching like in the trailer, for over 20 years, until Phone Dude talked to a construction guy, broke open the barrier, and found an animatronic,
A real one.
and brought him here to us. Unbeknownst to the public, Purple Guy, the murderer, who lured kids to the back room at the original pizzeria, killed them, stuffed them in suits to hide the bodies. Purple Guy, who was arrested but released when those bodies weren't found. Purple Guy, who came back to the restaurant when it reopened in a new location, got hired as a security guard so he could kidnap and kill more kids, and got away with it again. Purple Guy was trapped by the very ghosts of the kids, and forced to sit in agony for 23 years
I got you.
inside of a suit, unable to truly die. It's an ironic twist of fate,
Because I'm a little
but it's
bit
exactly
far
what
away
he
from
deserved. At the end
my
of the
mouse.
game, there's no
My mic.
paycheck, no pink slip. The attraction burns to the ground, like Phone Dude said it might. Springtrap likely perished in that blaze, and is gone now. Finally. The police haven't ruled out foul play, meaning it might have been the security guard setting it on fire on purpose. But because of the faulty wiring, his crime will likely go undetected. A few items will be sold at public auction, meaning there's a chance for the curse to remain. But if you brighten the image, you can see Springtrap, perfectly visible. He did survive. And that is the story of FNAF 3. Except
That's
not
cool.
really at all, we barely started. Jesus, this is where the story gets tricky. That's right, the game where we can't even agree when it happens, with phone guy tapes that were recorded who knows when, where some tapes were memos and some were audio trainings. We don't know where or when any of this is. Now is when it gets confusing. Beating Night 5 rewards you with this screen. Bad ending. Turns out that Scott was a little bit upsetty that people kept finding all his little Easter eggs and solving the game so quickly. I should mention that every game has an ultimate mode where you can set the AI to their maximum level, and Scott could never beat those modes himself. He released the games not knowing if it was even possible, and each time it proved to be possible. So this time, I guess Scott wanted to make the search for insane Easter eggs part of the game. Before we get to that, we're gonna go over the normal Easter eggs. Like occasionally Shadow Freddy will appear in the office, and that is just absolutely the worst thing I've ever seen. Some of the posters change just like the other games, and these teleporting paper plates are back.
Oh, great.
Now let's get to the completely baffling, nonsensical
Dear
way that you're
Lord.
supposed to beat FNAF 3. So in those end-of-night follow-me minigames I talked about earlier, there is one hallway that will consistently have different hints in it. The first night, the hint is, BBDB click. Clearly, this means that on the first night, you're supposed to go to camera 8 and double-click on the poster of Balloon Boy. This takes you to Balloon Boy's Air Adventure. As Balloon Boy, you gather up some balloons and exit through the exit, except you might notice that that's not all of the balloons in the level. There's one more. So you start night 1 again, you double-click the poster again, and you get all the balloons, and then you jump through this wall, which has absolutely no indication that it's not solid, and you fall, and if you keep walking, you'll find the final balloon. If you enter the minigame again, you'll find that these balloons you found now form a floating platform you can hop on to find a dead child. You cannot interact with this child at all. Now if you go back to the Follow Me minigame, in the exact same hallway, you might notice some boxes with some arrows in them. This, obviously, is a hint that you need to find the arcade cabinet on camera 7 and input the code on the buttons in the machine in order to enter Mangle's quest. Mangle needs to find his missing parts and avoid this mean bully. So you jump around and you find the parts and then you go out the exit, except no, we've learned you don't go out the exit. Instead, you jump through this wall, fall down past a giant crying puppet, and find a ladder of balloons. These balloons would not have been there if we did not gather them in the Balloon Boy minigame. So you jump up all the balloons and then you find a cake. Now, clearly, since we are super geniuses, we can deduce that since the balloons from Balloon Boy's adventures carry over to Mangle's quest, that means the cake from Mangle's quest probably... So we double click on the poster and we go through
I
the
get it,
video,
guys.
we
I'm
go
watching
through the
FNAF
wall,
Lore.
we go up
It
to
was
the
the
balloon
FNAF
pad, find
jump
the dead
scare.
child, and then we give him the cake. And now he's a happy little dead boy. The next night, when doing the
Oh.
Follow Me minigame, you'll find a picture of
He's
4
happy
cupcakes.
little dead
This
boy.
means that you have to search every camera in the building and find 4 cupcakes and click on them, and then you get to start Chica's Party. In Chica's Party, you specifically play as Toy Chica. You need to grab cupcakes and give them to children, but we know better than to exit the minigame, so instead we're going to jump through the wall, land on one of the red balloons, and find another child to give the cake to. Also, you can't do this without first having done the Balloon Boy game. On the next night, the clue is 395248, and this one gave people a lot of trouble.
Let's put
The
it into
first
the
time you had
sound
to
since it
double-click Balloon
matches.
Boy. That's weird. Second one, you had to put in the Konami code into this arcade cabinet. That's weird. Third one, you gotta find some hidden cupcakes. But this one, you need to click on the wall tiles in the office arranged in a 3x3 grid like a phone keypad and click 395248. You need to dial it onto the wall tiles. You gotta dial the tile. This unlocks Stage 01. In Stage 01, Golden Freddy and
Come on,
Golden
guys,
Bonnie,
dial the
or
tile.
Spring Bonnie and Spring Freddy, or Spring Bonnie and Fredbear, whatever.
How dare you guys not
They have
know
so
how
many
to
names.
tile,
Jesus
dial the
Christ.
tile?
Fredbear and
How
Spring
dare you.
Bonnie. Even though I think it should be Fredbear
He's
and
only
Bun
here
Bonnie,
for the
but no one cares what I think. So here's a small stage in a small restaurant. These 2 old costumes were used back at Fredbear's Family Diner, which is where this game clearly is set. This is the location before the location where the MCI happened. So if you glitch through the walls and the ceiling and then you do all of this nonsense,
Oh my god.
you'll reach a
What the
child and
fuck?
give them cake. Now, if you
What?
take a second and you think, this is weird. The first
Well,
child
that
was helped
is-
by
that
Balloon
was
Boy,
nonsense.
and the second by Mangle, and the
Yeah.
third by Toy Chica, specifically Toy Chica. Maybe that means they were killed at the second Freddy's location. Maybe this child was killed at Fredbear's Family Diner. No. But that's the exact kind of detail that drives people crazy and makes them try to shove square pegs into round holes. Everyone knows it only works the other way around.
Semicircle?
The semicircle.
That's right, it's the square hole.
Next night, they hint to Shadow Bonnie, and on that night, a doll of Shadow Bonnie appears in your office, and now you're playing as good old Rick Faska. You glitch your way through other minigames until you find a child and give him cake. Now, the last thing to do is to click on this poster of the puppet because... duh. And you enter into Happiest
duh,
Day.
chat.
As a
How dare you
child
not know
wearing a
that?
mask of the puppet,
Oh,
you pass by
duh.
various tables with
You
kids sitting
glitched
at
through
them wearing
walls.
masks that we've never seen before. A green alligator, a pink pig, a purple thing, a blue pig, an orange
Purple
bird.
thing is
Then at the end of the
crazy.
hall are 4 kids, in masks of Freddy, Chica, Foxy, and Bonnie, and a crying child with no mask. If you did all the games correctly, then the puppet will give the child a cake. He will put on the Fredbear or Golden Freddy mask, and then they will all vanish, leaving their masks behind and freeing their balloons, or their souls, to rise to the sky.
Nah, trust, I know more than y'all. Alright.
What was that? But you get it. There were a lot of murders. Kid outside
Dad, I know
Fredbear's
more
is the
than she
puppet.
does.
The MCI kids are the core 4, and then there's Golden Freddy.
How the fuck did you
The
get
other 5
banned
are probably
temporarily?
the 5 kids from FNAF 2 with the KCI and the Save
What do you
Them
do?
minigame. But like,
Oh, god damn it,
but,
Zoro.
like, what is this? If you proceed to the end of the final night again, you see the ghosts all hunt down Purple Guy. Maybe it makes sense now that the animatronics are disassembled and they've all had this little party, and that's why they can manifest as ghosts and attack Purple Guy and kill him, and then all go to heaven. Except that's totally not what happened. The end screen now shows that the masks do not have lights in them. They are empty. The souls are gone. For some reason, in the bad ending screen, the way the masks are positioned makes it look like there are 2 lights inside Golden Freddy. On the good ending screen,
I called a
Golden
guy
Freddy is
autistic a
zero.
lot, of course.
There are some questions about when
does sound like
Happiest Day
something you
takes
do.
place. If the kids join up and move on the day that Purple Guy is spring-locked, then the animatronics wouldn't have been haunted for FNAF 1. It seems like it probably happens when FNAF 3 happens, but that's also kind of weird, because why would they move on the moment that Springtrap is freed? It's also argued whether or not the puppet is actually in FNAF 3. There are phantoms, which we know are not physical beings, but the puppet seems real. Matt Pat pointed out in one of his videos that there is a reflection in this puddle, which seems to indicate that the puppet is probably real. If the puppet is still possessed, then Happiest Day cannot have happened yet. That makes me pretty confident to put Happiest Day and the children's souls getting freed after FNAF 3, meaning that the scene of the ghosts attacking Purple Guy had nothing to do with Happiest Day. And that also makes sense because it's very heavily implied that what is haunted about the animatronics are the endoskeletons. There are multiple costumes and outer casings in the back room of FNAF 1 for all the characters, so it's not the casings that are possessed, it's the endoskeleton. I really don't think there's a correlation between Purple Guy getting springed and Happiest Day, except for the fact that they're both told in FNAF 3. It does bring a whole new meaning to Shadow Freddy, though.
Okay, kind of is your
Purple
fault,
Guy
though. You didn't
uses
have
him
to say
lure the
anything.
animatronics to their demise. He also appeared in FNAF 2, after those murders happened, and he appears in our office in FNAF 3. That thing is evil. Whatever it is, it's clearly some manifestation of Purple Guy's evil. And it's right there. Golden Freddy in the first game was spooky because these animatronics are trying to kill you. But now we know that the animatronics are innocent kids, and that they don't really mean to kill us. But this thing is legitimately evil. And that is FNAF 3. Almost. We have to bring up the major question, which is, what were those mini-games? Obviously, the security guard, us, we were not playing those games. We weren't sitting there playing Mangle's quest and somehow affecting events that were happening in the ghost world, right? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Wi-Fi? What the hell's a Wi-Fi?
Alright, time to check in on our good buddy MatPat.
Scotty C certainly didn't make things any easier for us, but at this point I think we finally have enough puzzle pieces scattered across the 3 games to assemble a fairly accurate picture of this franchise's lore.
You may be wondering why I said that the FNAF timeline and story are so confusing, when I have put together a very coherent story so far. Well, that's because I have hindsight. I know what things and Easter eggs and clues are relevant and which are not. I know that Purple Guy isn't Phone Guy. I know that this murder is Purple Guy's first murder, and thus it's very easy to place this at Fredbear's Family Diner. I was able to put things in chronological order because I've had almost 10 years to sit on it. When these games first came out, you were hit with everything at once. If you're playing through FNAF 3 normally, you're playing each night, and then between each night you're playing something that happened years ago in the Follow Me minigame. Then the games end, with an event that set the game into motion in the first place. The last thing you play is the first thing that happened. And it was the same in FNAF 2. You found out all these murders happened the day before you started working, at the end of the game. The events are not explained chronologically or even coherently, but beyond that, there was also MatPat. Now, I'm not going to say that he was the entire community, because that is simply not true. But he did steer the discussion for years. Discussions either became built on his theories off of his assertions, which led to some faulty Jenga tower logic because his assertions were wrong.
You know what?
Or
No,
it led to some
I ain't
contrarians,
staying.
some pariahs out there trying to
Do you
disprove
see what he
him,
named
but
a
they
drink?
weren't listened to because they disagreed with MatPat. So now we're going to watch some of his
I
post-FNAF
call the
3 videos so we can get a
guzzle
good
surprise.
grasp on where the theories were at the time and how not even
I'm gonna
close
deny
they
it
were.
because
This is not Fredbear Diner
Yeah.
like many interpret, but rather the
it's called the
first
Come Guzzle
location
Surprise
of Freddy
Pound. Sorry, I'm
Fazbear's
not in the
Pizza,
people
predating
chat.
the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. How do we know? Well, by paying close attention to the old recordings of Phone Guy dug up in FNAF 3, he introduces us to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Diner, before explaining the functionality of the special spring-lock suits.
This isn't true. I'm not going to say that this is certainly Fredbear's Family Diner, but the logic he just used is flawed. Phone Guy can make training tapes for suits even years after those suits were invented. There's also no reason to think that these are spring-lock suits. They might just be the Fredbear and Old Bonnie animatronics, which were yellow. There's nothing in this minigame that makes it seem like these are spring-lock suits.
After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees. The classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location.
Now, let's pause here. 2 employees are killed by the failure of a Bonnie suit and a Freddy suit.
I'ma stop you right there. Phone Guy says there was an incident with multiple spring lock failures. Each suit has multiple spring locks inside of them. I think this phrase, multiple spring lock failures, just means there was a complete failure of the system. If one spring lock fails, you get stabbed. But if all of them
Yeah, but
fail,
the name
you get
ain't
instantly
good.
crushed.
The name is horrible.
I don't think this
You
even
might want to
intends
rethink that
imply
name,
that
but
2
it
suits
sounds
both
good.
failed at the same time, killing 2 employees. I think it just means that one suit failed catastrophically. MatPat will go on to use this as evidence that Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy are the ghosts of the 2 employees who were spring-locked. And that is just not the case. But it did limit the discussion of their true identities for years, because people just assumed that MatPat was correct.
But remember, Golden Freddy is a decommissioned spring-lock suit at this point, deemed too unsafe to be functional. The reason he's slumped over and can't move like the rest is that his endoskeleton has been taken out. He's in suit mode. This also explains the lone naked endoskeleton that appears occasionally in both Five Nights 2 and Five Nights 1, an endoskeleton that
Five
once
Nights, I love when
belonged
he
to
calls it
Golden
that.
Freddy.
It's not important, but this is factually incorrect. The endos in FNAF 1 and 2
You
are
get
different
Matt's
models.
name out your fucking
Also, when a
mouth.
spring
This
lock suit
video
is
is
worn,
blasphemy.
the endo is not taken out. It's actually moved to the sides, so that there's room for a person to climb inside. Also, in my personal understanding of the series, it would be the endo that is haunted, not the casing.
Dude, these are like prehistoric. I think they were like training tapes.
In short, all of Phone Guy's messages are unstuck in time, not recorded anytime near your tenure as security guard. That includes the ones in FNAF 2 talking about children going missing. The pizzeria isn't being shut down for an investigation of some missing children the week you happen to be working there. You're listening to old tapes meant for the night security guard from months ago.
Again, this is just wrong. Phone Guy says he'll be taking over the job after you. But if that was recorded a while ago, then you wouldn't have this job. The paycheck labels you as employee number 2, and Fritz as employee number 3. And we know that Purple Guy was employee number 1. The newspaper says the location was only open for a few weeks. Even just with the evidence from FNAF 2, this statement is just so wrong.
And just looking at it from every possible angle, all logic points to it being the Phone Guy.
Also, MatPat still thinks Phone Guy is Purple Guy.
Consider this, he's the only person in the game who knows about the safe rooms. As we've mentioned before, all the safe rooms were sealed up back in the Springlock suit days, back in the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, meaning every other employee coming afterward would have never even heard of these things. Phone Guy is the only character we meet who would have any knowledge of these rooms. He's also the only person who knows how to use the Springlock suits. Again, once they were decommissioned, the suits were hidden away. We know for a fact the killer was using one of the yellow spring-locked suits, and Phone Guy is the only character we know who had knowledge of A, where they were hidden, and B, how they were operated safely.
This part made my brain hurt. MatPat says Phone Guy is the only person who knows about the Springlock suits in the safe room. Then he points out that no employees who work there after him would be told about them, and that he's the only character we meet who knows about them. That second part is true. He is the only character we meet who would know about them. But obviously, other people know about the suits. Phone Guy records a memo to tell all the employees about not touching the suits after they've been decommissioned. He makes a memo about the room being boarded up. Matt just went from, Phone Guy is the last person in the group of employees who would know, to, Phone Guy is the only person who could possibly know. Obviously, the performers who used the suits would know. The technicians that took the suits away after they were decommissioned would know. And we know that Purple Guy was an employee. I don't know if Matt just had a brain fart or if he's grasping at straws, but this is literally just a lie. He also says that FNAF 1 is an alternate universe where the bad ending happened. No. I just wanted to talk about this video because it really paints a picture of how people had no idea what was going on at the time. And as we move into the next section, where I have no idea what's going on, I want you to understand how the people who interpreted FNAF 1 as an alternate universe bad ending prequel have no chance of understanding FNAF 4, the final chapter. FNAF 4, the final chapter, is the midpoint of our story today. And if you think it's called the final chapter because it takes place furthest along in the timeline, then no, you'd be wrong. It's actually the first game in the timeline. Let's begin. The tagline for FNAF 4, which, yes, was changed its name in development, it wasn't actually called the final chapter. We can goof on that all we want, but that was technically not its name when it was released. The tagline is, "What is it that you think you see?" And I have no idea because this game broke the entire community and to this day nobody can agree on a word of it. FNAF 4 released on July 23rd, 2015, 3 months after FNAF 3, giving it the longest development time so far. And this shows. This game is fully in 3D, with the character actually being able to move. One thing it does lack, though, is any voice lines. There is no phone guy in this game, and not a single voiced line of dialogue. The reason FNAF 4 exists when it was meant to only be a trilogy is because people complained that Springtrap's jump scare was lame. And it was. So Scott decided to make one more game, this time with the scariest jump scares yet. I talked at the beginning about how Scott usually makes his next game focusing on the feedback from the previous game, and that's why this game features nightmare animatronics. They're no longer bound by the expectations that anybody could realistically think these are appropriate for a pizzeria restaurant for kids. These are actual nightmares. The story reason for these nightmare animatronics is that the game is being told from the perspective of a child who is scared of Freddy's. So these monsters are his actual nightmares. Scott also promised that this would be the final chapter to conclude the story, which it did, at the time. The story had already concluded in FNAF 3, but this game added extra context to everything. It took the minimal story in these couple games about the killer, and it actually made a very compelling story about the game's hero. The problem is, nobody understood that at the time, and many probably still don't. Okay, so you're playing not as a security guard, but as a young boy in his bedroom at night, and you must survive away from your nightmares from midnight until 6 a.m. Taking a cue from the original game, Bonnie comes from your left, Chica from your right, Foxy has a time-based mechanic where he peeks out from something. In this case, it's your closet, and you have to check up on him every once in a while. And Freddy gets behind you in your office, or in your bedroom. These are Freddles, and you have to check on them every once in a while to make them go away. With your back turned to the rest of the room, Bonnie and Chica can get you.
That sounds
When
like
you
a
lean
cereal.
out in the door into the hallway, you have to listen for breathing. If you hear breathing, you have to shut the door. Otherwise,
Those
you
are
can
good
send them
cereal
away with your
Freddles.
flashlight. So just like normal, we have a mechanic where you have to check on things to prevent you from just sitting there and doing nothing, that being Foxy and Freddy. And then we have other randomly timed events that you have to ward off until the night ends. This is classic FNAF. Between nights, we once again have Atari-style minigames like in FNAF 3. These are all about this young crying boy. This young crying boy does not have a name. Some people think his name is Evan, but it definitely is not. But that is what most people call him. There's also evidence for Garrett and Gregory. Since there's no official name, people usually just call him Crying Child, or CC. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to call him CC. You see, I lied to you. I did a little trick. The first minigame is actually before Night 1. A small plush toy of Fredbear, not Freddy, Fredbear, like Golden Freddy, speaks to us and says,
What did he do this time? He locked you in your room
Playing
again.
random rooms and was on a team with Clear.
Don't be scared. I am here with you.
Now you play as Cece in his bedroom. Fredbear plush is on the floor, as are plushes of the other Freddy characters, with the weird detail that Foxy's head is missing. In the actual gameplay sections, Foxy is not missing his head, meaning they either take place before this, Or this is a different Foxy plush, a different child's toy. Freddy also has buttons, implying that this is the pre-FNAF 1 version of the character, which I don't think was ever in dispute. CC, the crying child, is crying, constantly, throughout the entire game. If you waltz on over to the plushes, CC will say,
"These are my friends."
If you try to go out the door, you'll find it's locked or blocked from the other side, and CC will fall over and sob. Then a voice will say,
Tomorrow is another day.
This text is the same color that Fredbear uses when he speaks. What's kind of weird is that Fredbear in the first scene in the game does not have any color in his eyes, but for the rest of the game he has white eyes. After your first night of defending yourself from monsters, it's time for another mini-game. What you may have noticed is that these two rooms are obviously not the same room. This room has 2 doors, this room has 1. This is not the same room, which is very weird.
4 days until the party.
CC can leave his room now and walk around the house, but not before Fredbear warns him that someone is hiding. Fredbear appears above a grandfather clock in the hallway, seemingly able to teleport wherever he wants. If you go left, you'll walk into a room with a TV. A boy in a Foxy mask will jump out at you, and you start to cry. The game ends.
Tomorrow is another day.
There's nothing in the text confirming it, but I think we can assume that this is CC's older brother. Then there's a curveball thrown right at ya. Fun with Plush Trap. So now we enter a minigame where you are sitting in a short hallway with 4 doors. At the end of the hallway is a nightmarish plushie of Springtrap sitting in a chair. For gameplay reasons, the point of this minigame is to get the doll to stop on the X on the floor. If you do, then your next night is 2 hours shorter. But story-wise... A plushie of Spring Bonnie existing makes perfect sense. There's one of Fredbear, obviously. But the nightmarish appearance of this one makes it seem like this was also a nightmare, and it looks kind of like Springtrap, and it's called Plush Trap. But while it makes sense that a child who is not CC because the rooms are different, but a child would have nightmares about animatronics and have to stay up until morning, I don't understand the child who imagines a scary doll in the short hallway. I don't know when this takes place.
3 days until the party.
CC is crying under a table at a Freddy's location.
He left without you. He knows that you hate it here.
So, older brother, Foxy Bro, if you will, took us to Freddy's and then left us here. And CC is scared of the restaurant. Except he thinks the plushes are his friends. He's fine with the characters. It's the animatronics he's scared of. Which makes sense because as a child, I was also scared of the animatronics at Chuck E. Cheese's. But not the characters. The voice of Fredbear tells CC to run to the exit.
You are right beside the exit. If you run, you can make it.
If you run left, he says,
No. Don't you remember what you saw? The exit is the other way. Hurry and leave.
When you then go the correct way, a performer in a Fredbear costume will walk up to you. This is likely a Springlock suit given that there are teeth in the costume as opposed to a mascot suit. Fredbear, the disembodied voice, will say,
It's too late. Hurry the other way and find someone who will help. You know what will happen if he catches you.
On the next screen over, we see shadows on the wall of Bonnie and Freddy. These are in animatronic mode because you can't see anything inside of them, but it's unclear if these are shadows of figures who are behind the camera, behind our perspective, or if this gray background isn't a wall but a curtain of some sort and they're on the other side casting a shadow, or maybe it's actually Shadow Freddy and Rick Fispasca as entities coming for us. Fredbear says,
You can find help if you can get past them. You have to be strong.
This really does make it seem like they are physically in the way, not just somewhere else in the room. If you go to the right again, you can see into a previously closed door. Purple Guy is standing in the dark, a name tag on his shirt. This is not a badge. It's not in the shield shape we saw back in FNAF 2. This is a normal, rectangle name tag. And he's helping a performer into a Bonnie suit. Based on the lack of eyes and teeth, this really looks like a normal mascot costume, not a Springlock suit. It's also mildly weird that the 2 animatronic characters would be performing on stage, while there's another Fredbear mascot walking around, and now another Bonnie ready to come out.
Nice.
If you try to leave, the guy in the Fredbear suit will follow you. You collapse beside or next to a table.
Tomorrow is another day.
Okay, let's talk about Fredbear plush. He's capable of teleporting, I guess. He speaks to you as if he's a different person. He's not Foxy Bro, he's not Purple Guy. He might be an imaginary friend. He might be possessed by a ghost. White eyes usually mean possession in these games. But we can rule out Foxy Bro and Purple Guy because they are both visibly on screen doing things when Fredbear is talking to Cece.
2 days until the party.
Fun fact, the FNAF wiki actually has this quoted as 2 days before the party, despite it getting every single other one of these quotes correct. The FNAF wiki is kind of
I'll
a
be
mess
back.
all around. Anyway, this minigame opens, still at Freddy's.
He hates you.
Okay.
You have to get up. You can get out this time, but you have to hurry.
Cece goes outside to find a boy in a green shirt holding a Spring Bonnie plush.
Where's your plush toy? Mine is Spring Bonnie. My daddy says I have to be careful with him, or I will pinch my finger. He is a finger trap, he says.
So that means that in the game, he's Spring Bonnie. Fazbear Entertainment is not manufacturing Spring Trap toys, thankfully, as that would ruin all sense of time. The gross version from the gameplay is just a nightmare, and I'm very glad about that. And this boy's comment about the plush being a finger trap is something. It probably means something, and I guess I'm going to have to talk about it eventually, so why not now? There's a theory that this game is intended to show that every FNAF game is a dream, a nightmare. The minigames in FNAF 4 being the only real parts of the story, with every other game, including their minigames, being a dream. That theory states that this boy saying this to Cece is what inspires Cece to dream up Springtrap for the FNAF 3 nightmare. We're gonna put that on the back burner, I'll address it all later, but I want you to know I don't think this was ever the intention. But if that's not the intention of Scott, then what does this line mean? Well, Springlock suits already exist, so those training tapes Phone Guy made might already exist. In which case, the employees at the pizzeria already know that they're dangerous. Could this kid be Phone Guy's son? No, there's no evidence for it, except for that it makes this line make sense. But hey, there's no evidence for Dream Theory, except that it makes this line make sense. So I'm gonna go on a limb, I'm gonna say this is Phone Guy's son, headcanon confirmed. Obviously, that's just a joke. It's also possible that this is a joke that Scott just put in the game because he knew we would get it, but people use this line as key evidence that every single other game is a dream, and that is just silly. If you go south, you'll find this green-eyed girl with pigtails. You'll also find Fredbear's head sticking out of a flower, which is weird, and which lends more evidence to the supernatural theory. Or possibly the head is just a representation of the plush. There is something plush-like about that flower. The green-eyed girl says,
"You'd better watch out. I hear they come to life at night. And if you die, they hide your body and never tell anyone. Why do you look so worried? See you at the party. Ha ha ha."
So Dream Theory really makes this line make a lot more sense. Like, wow, this is clearly the reason for Cece's nightmare. A playground rumor saying that they put your bodies in suits at night. Except no. Cece thinks the animatronics are scary now during the day. He's not scared of them only at night. In FNAF 1, when you die, you see your eyeballs in the Freddy head, meaning that they do actually stuff you in the suit. In this game, the screen goes red when you get caught. In other games, the screen cuts to static. When you get caught in this game, you actually die. If this rumor led to the other games being a nightmare, then there's no reason why that wouldn't be included in the nightmare of this game. The animatronics in this game should also stuff you, but no, they just kill you. You know who knows about the animatronics putting people into suits? Phone Guy. In FNAF 2, he says it so nonchalantly that it might happen. This is a small town, and these kids are always around Freddy's. The idea that the animatronics at night might put people in suits because they think they're endoskeletons might lead to this kind of rumor. An employee being told this at training might leak out to the rest of the town, and then kids might hear it and think that the animatronics are actually alive. Down the sidewalk is an older boy in green.
"Aren't you the kid who always hides under the table and cries?" "No one else is scared. Why are you? Stop being such a baby."
Next to a parked car, where just the sliver of Fredbear can be seen, is a boy with a balloon. A balloon boy.
"Are you going to the party? Everyone is going to the party." "Oh wait, you have to go." It's your birthday.
So now we know that the days being counted down to are for Cece's birthday, presumably at Freddy's, which he is scared of. Dream theory people also think that this boy is what caused Cece to dream about Balloon Boy. If that was the case, and I don't mean to say if that was possible, I mean if that's what Scott intended, then I would assume the balloon he's holding would at least be the right color, and maybe he'd have a hat, or a striped shirt. Obviously, it's not that hard to depict a striped shirt given that Cece is wearing one. Then there's this girl, playing on a playground with her toys.
Why are you crying? Don't you like my toy collection?
At her feet are toys of Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy. This is obviously a reference to the toy animatronics. Now, dear viewer, it may seem as if I'm digging myself into a hole by denying this dream theory
What are you
thing.
talking about?
It makes a lot of sense. It allows Cece to imagine the toy animatronics in FNAF 2 because he saw these toys here. One key detail that people point to is that Chica is missing her beak. We will talk about that later. In FNAF 2, Chica starts the night with her beak, and then removes it when she comes hunting for you. Clearly, this aspect of Cece's nightmare as he is dreaming FNAF 2 is inspired by this girl and her broken toys that Cece saw once. Right, guys? There are two other options. One is that the actual toy figure has beak removal functionality, like it's part of the toy's design. I find it unlikely that this girl who is so proud of her collection would have just right now broken the beak for the first time and not be upset by it. I think it's removable, or at least that's possible. The second option is that Toy Chica removes her beak because this toy broke. Because this girl is an MCI victim who becomes Chica. I said that I don't think the FNAF 2 animatronics were possessed, and I don't. I don't think they're possessed by the 5 children who were murdered in the FNAF 2 location. But Phone Guy says that the withered animatronics were used for parts for the toys. So if Chica's medal has the imprint of the light force of the girl who Purple Guy killed, and that medal was then reused in Toy Chica, then maybe she takes off her beak because this girl likes taking off her toy's beak. Kids these days just can't keep their hands to themselves. It's possible the staff had to put Chica's beak back on after every shift. There were some theories that these kids would all be the MCI victims, like this kid is actually possessing Balloon Boy, this one is Freddy, but it's not like this kid becomes Springtrap. And then there's another theory that this is Jeremy from FNAF 2. So I don't want to overreach and say this is Chica, but I think that makes more sense than Dream Theory. People like Dream Theory because it answers everything and is easy. Dream Theory is simple. Everything else is complex. Then you walk up to your house and you can go and turn on the TV, and if you do, it says Fredbear and Friends, 1983. Scott basically came out to confirm that this means that the game takes place in 1983. Obviously, if you see a TV show with a copyright date, that does not mean that it is currently the year of the copyright date. If I'm making a movie and someone is watching The Wizard of Oz, that does not mean the movie takes place in the 30s. It does mean the movie takes place at least after that year. But yeah, Scott did come out to confirm that this means that the game takes place in 1983. Meeting our...
We back.
Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be back. Cliffhanger.
Alrighty. Hey, chat. How's it going? Yeah, that's also her starting screen and ending screen. I tried. I can't though. My computer can't run it. I lag too much. If I could, I would totally play with y'all. Yeah, it's normal. Yup. Yup. I do know that. Fun fact. It's really cool. Sayu is his name.
I'm back.
Huh?
I'm back. Let's
Welcome back.
get done with FNAF 4 story. And then I'll end stream here. What do we got?
Our timeline of important
It's
events
so
will now
long.
look like. Sometime in roughly 1972, the Fredbear characters are created. 1983,
That's why I
Cece's
have
birthday
Scott.
bash.
That's why I have to play something.
1985, the MCI. 1987, the kidnapped children's incident in the Bite of 87.
It's so long. I have to play
1992,
something.
FNAF 1
without
closes
getting
and
big.
Phone Guy dies. And 2015, Springtrap is unleashed. Meaning we are 2 years away from Phone Guy committing his first murder. And I got no idea what sets him off and causes that to happen. I hope we find out. If you go right past your bedroom, you'll find the room of a young girl. There is a disassembled toy of what appears to be Mangle on the floor, and this is one of the things that confused a lot of people back in the day. People assumed that Mangle was invented at the FNAF 2 location, putting his creation sometime around 1987. But this technically is not stated anywhere. The Phone Guy line is...
They tried to remake Foxy, you know? They thought the first one was too scary, so they redesigned him to be more kid-friendly and put him in Kids Cove. To keep the toddlers entertained, you know. But kids these days just can't keep their hands to themselves. The staff literally had to put Foxy back together at the end of every shift. Eventually they just stopped trying and left him as some kind of take apart, put back together attraction. Now he's just a mess of parts. I think the employees refer to him as just the Mangle.
There's no reason they can't have decided to remake Foxy and put him in Kids Cove in the original Freddy's location. The FNAF 2 location was only open for 1 week before you start the game, so the choice of words with him saying eventually after every shift, well, that makes it seem like it lasted more than a week. I think it's safe to say that Mangle existed in the first Freddy's Pizza location, meaning that this girl having a Mangle toy makes perfect sense, even though this game takes place before FNAF 2. When you enter your room, Foxy Bro jump scares you.
Tomorrow is
You know,
another
but I could
day.
technically play FNAF 4 one day for a stream.
One day until
Do
the
that for one of
party.
your streams.
This scene
Yeah,
starts in the back
yeah,
room of
if
the
I can,
pizzeria.
that is.
Much like the one in FNAF 1, there are spare costumes and endo parts. On the floor is a headless animatronic. This has caused a lot of drama in the community because some people think it has a kid shoved inside it, and that is hair sticking out. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's just wires. The idea that Purple Guy would murder a kid, shove him in there, in front of Cece, and then leave the suit headless so the body is just out in the open makes so little sense. Cece cries out,
Please, let me out. Please. Please let me out.
It's implied that Foxy Bro locked him in this room, which is obviously the scariest room in the building. Unlike all other nights, the text, "Tomorrow is another day," does not appear. The next night is different from all other nights. Instead of the roster of animatronics we've been facing so far, there is now only one enemy, Nightmare Fredbear, an evil manifestation of the creature Cece fears the most. Despite Fredbear being his best friend, it should be noted that Fredbear the plush and the Nightmare have purple hats and ties. Golden Freddy, as we will come to know him as later, has black accessories. So while Fredbear and Golden Freddy are basically the same character, it seems like between this game and the next game he appears in, the company changes his appearance, for some reason.
It should also be noted that the version of Fredbear in the Stage 01 minigame from FNAF 3 has black accessories, putting this moment after FNAF 4's minigames. As Fredbear travels around the map glitching to various different sides, we actually see a screen where the 3 cheering children turn into only 2 cheering children. This may indicate that the Spring Bonnie character has killed
I'll
while
be back.
Fredbear was absent. This would line up with our timeline of the MCI happening sometime after 1983. After Fredbear will go from purple to black accessories. Let's take a look at what may have caused that change.
0 days until the party.
It's Cece's birthday party at Freddy's, a place that he hates. A place that makes him cry in front of all the neighborhood children. In front of him is his brother, and his brother's 3 friends in masks. The Freddy mask kid is likely the one that laughed at Cece earlier, although his hair is a slightly different color. That's fine though, we can excuse things being a slightly different color as just a minor mistake. In blue text, we read,
Wow, your brother is kind of a baby, isn't he?
Given that Foxy Bro's text is gray like his shirt, it's unclear if the blue text belongs to Bonnie Kid or Chica Kid, whose shirt is blue.
It's hilarious. Why don't we help him get a closer look? He will love it. No, please. Come on, guys. Let's give this little man a lift. He wants to get up close and personal.
Now this part makes no sense as they walk past the shadows to the stage with the characters on it. Either I'm incapable of grasping the perspective of this 2D landscape's representation, or these actually are the shadow animatronics, watching events take hold, and nobody but us can see them.
No, I don't want to go. You heard the little man. He wants to get even closer. Hey guys, I think the little man said he wants to give Fredbear a big kiss. On 3. 1, 2...
Was that the bite of 87?
Night 6 has every animatronic in the original Freddy crew, as well as Nightmare Fredbear. Completion of this night leads us to the final cutscene. Gray text, the text indicating that it's Foxy Bro speaking. He says,
Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me. I'm sorry.
Yellow text, Fredbear's text, then says,
You're broken. We are still your friends. Do you still believe that? I am still here.
The plushes all fade away, leaving Fredbear last.
I will put you back together.
Then, Cece fades away. But it's not the scene ending, the ground is still visible. It's just Cece. Also, the FNAF Wiki claims that this song is from Halo. It's not. There's a YouTube video where somebody used this song over like a montage of sad Halo moments, and for some reason people think that the song is then from Halo. It's actually from a royalty-free audio library. And nobody questioned how Scott would be able to license music from Bungie. They just wrote it on the wiki. Also, yeah, Cece's dead. I think the text here is pretty self-explanatory. As the plushies fade, Fredbear tells Cece that they're still his friends. As they disappear, it is symbolically showing that Cece no longer considers them his friends, because kids wearing the masks of those characters just killed him. Fredbear desperately clings to Cece, saying, "I'm still here, I will put you back together." And then he disappears too. This is Cece giving up on these characters, not just the animatronics, but the plushies too. I can hear fans screaming about how I didn't mention that the text is a different color when Fredbear talks on this final night. And that is true. His text color for the rest of the nights is darker. This is different. There's a lot of different theories for this. For one, lighter colored Fredbear shares the text color with Pigtail Girl from earlier. So maybe that's the sister and this is her talking. Maybe she was Fredbear all along. There's also the possibility that it is literally just a mistake. Like I said earlier, we can forgive slight color errors. Like Scott, while programming, accidentally copied the color code from Pigtail Girl's text instead of all the other instances of Fredbear, because they just look so similar. Then there's the theory that there's just something different about the voice during this final scene. For example, if Fredbear has a speaker inside of him explaining how he talks, then maybe Foxy Bro goes from talking out loud to then talking through the plush to try to reach his brother. Or if it's some other character like Cece's father, who has been talking through the plush the entire game, maybe now he's not talking through the plush. Maybe now the father is talking in the same room as Cece. My personal theory about the plush is completely based on evidence from the next game, so we'll get back to that. But for now, just keep in mind that there is a debate to this very day about what the bear is. At first glance, the story told in this game is completely nonsensical with the rest of the series. We know that there were 5 MCI victims, and thus this kid is not the spirit inside Golden Freddy, because he was not killed by the purple guy. So he does not count as one of those 5 kids. This is before the murders, and before Purple Guy starts tampering with soul juice. So why is this story being told? Who is this kid who to this day is nameless? Why is his story important? To try to figure that out, we need to look at some Easter eggs hidden in the game. Beyond the supernatural appearance of the
We're at the Easter eggs. So that means it's the end of stream. I think it was fun. I don't think I've learned a single thing. Other than what I know ahead of this lore. Which is Cece being, you know, Purple Guy's child. He's an Afton. But I think it'll be fun to learn the deep dive. I might watch this one, though, next stream. I'll save it, because it's the entire FNAF timeline. Just like something shorter that'll be better. Unless you guys want me to continue doing the deep dive. Which, if you guys want me to continue doing the deep dive, I will. But I can see you guys wanting to go play fucking Marvel Rivals, so I'll let y'all go. You guys have fun. And you do want me to continue? Alright, I'll continue the deep dive. Right. I'll see y'all next stream when I continue the deep dive.